ain't sure, but I think this girl is dangerous. Dangerous. Cause she be on my mind, last night was fabulous. Oh, I call her Miss Naughty Naughty, how she teases, oh my god. Oh my god. She make her brother heat up, yeah, yeah. I mean she's hot like a heater. Thinking of seeing her again, yeah, yeah. Take her out and fly away, yeah, yeah. Keep her closer day by day. Did you hear me say, did you hear me say? Thinking of seeing her again. Take her out and fly away. Keep her closer day by day. Did you hear me say? How she move is slow. Damn, she got it all. The way she took control. She make her brother hate her. Think she's hot like a hater. Up on my radar. Always on my mind, on my radar. Give you all my time, you're my data. Give you all my time, you're my data. Yeah, up on my radar. Always on my mind, you're my radar. Give you all my time, you're my data. Give you all my time, you're my data. Magnetic affection. She pulling me close, no tension. Right now she has it all, my attention. I keep them all out of protection. I don't know what she did to me. She's all in my head, this cannot be. I feel it when she's there in front of me. That's why thinking of seeing her again. Take her out and fly away. Keep her closer day by day. Did you hear me say? Did you hear me say? Thinking of seeing her again. Take her out and fly away. Keep her closer day by day. Did you hear me say? How she move is slow. Damn, she got it all. The way she took control. She make her brother hate her. Think she's hot like a hater. Up on my radar. Always on my mind, on my radar. Give you all my time, you're my data. Give you all my time, you're my data. Yeah, up on my radar. Always on my mind, you're my radar. Give you all my time, you're my data. Give you all my time, you're my data.
nobody stopping me. Nobody stopping me. nobody stopping me. Ain't nobody stopping me.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It's still the weekend, which means it's still more time for Kart Rider Drift League. My name is William Cho, joined by Wolf, and we were just talking about this before the show. It's been a while since we've casted together in anything.
Yeah, it's been about 10 years.
Long time, long time.
But
yeah.
I'm excited. Yeah, I mean, it's our first time casting Kart Rider together. We're back for KDL Season 2, or Preseason 2, that is to say. And I'm really excited because we have some roster changes. Obviously, we have some really good balance changes, I think, to item mode in particular, which has changed the game in a good way, I think, especially for Pro. So I'm looking forward to seeing how Liiv SANDBOX will do today, too, considering they're one of our favorite teams, top 2 teams, of course, finalists, but losing 2 of their critical players.
Yeah, I mean, if you haven't been following along the storyline, obviously 2 of their kind of beloved players, namely Insu and then Seungha, they had to go to mandatory military service. So we'll take a closer look at those roster changes later, but here's the overview. We've got 8 teams who, you know, some of them all making it through the qualifiers at the end of the day. So familiar names like Kwangdong Freaks and Liiv SANDBOX, Rocks, even R, of course, a huge run in the last preseason, but then a couple new names as well.
Yeah, potential Showtime, Seraphic teams that have some very familiar players, but are, kind of new in terms of the set of who they're going to be playing together in. The format the same as preseason 1, and of course we have some track changes as well. Japan circuit I'm really looking forward to seeing. And the tracks that you see here are mostly the same, right, in terms of the ones that you guys have come to love throughout KDL. We will pretty much be playing Terracotta Twister every time again still. It's still one of the most popular safe tracks for teams, so while there are some changes, it feels very familiar as well.
Yeah, I feel like Terracotta Twister is that track where, yes, in terms of category, it is a difficult track, but everyone's so used to it. And other than the tomb section, right, there's not too much danger of being completely knocked out or having too much chaos, like construction chaos itself. So we see it quite commonly. And then on item mode as well, we've got a couple new tracks that were refurbished here for the new season of the game itself, and then a couple being shuffled in and out as well. And I think this is going to, of course, continue as we move on towards the regular season later in the year as well.
Yeah, as long as we have Glacier Polar Halfpipe, I'm happy.
Yeah? Is that your favorite item mode?
I feel like it just creates the most dramatic ones. Cogwheel Crush and Brody's Gloom as well.
Well, you're not a fan of World Tour London Night where they just go around the square every time and it's whoever boosts around the last corner?
Hey, the item changes have made it a little bit more varied.
This is true.
I do, I always love a London Night or two on my KDL nights. So we'll see what ends up happening when we do get to our draft for item mode later on. But yeah, it's going to be exciting to see how this in particular changes things up. Of course, the biggest ones for me are the nerf to Magnet, the nerf to Angel Armor, and of course the buff to EMP, where it actually also is, essentially a nerf to Magnet in general as well.
Well, yeah, I mean, this has kind of already put Magnet on the kind of the cutting board of kind of trying to figure out, okay, well, is this an end-all be-all item still? Can we still rely on it to bring us wins? Or should this one be one of those where you cycle it out just to make sure that you're in contention for first place?
Yeah, it's kind of become seemingly a tempo item rather than a closing item. And I think that was kind of always the intended design, but now in Pro, it's going to actually feel that way a little bit more than it did before. And you can see, of course, some of the changes to drop rates here as well, which just makes it, it just makes more sense.
Yeah, frankly. I mean, but this also should start to affect kind of how teams have evolved even during the original Kart Rider in terms of, okay, even in like distance, right? How far, which placement am I from first place to make sure that I increase my chances of getting certain items? And so a lot more of the strategy, which by the way, probably the pro teams and all the teams involved haven't quite figured out yet either. I mean, a lot of these changes came out just about a week ago, a little over a week ago, so people are still trying to figure out what works best here in preseason 2.
Yeah. The Water Wisp change is pretty interesting because it gives you a lot more opportunity to catch up, but it also can feel frustrating if you are the first place one that has that huge gap. It can be annoying because you might get caught by that. As here's today's matchups. We got Liiv SANDBOX, their opening match of the season against Sensation, very familiar names. Aura, I think a huge fan favorite, obviously last season, making that dark horse run against Seraphic. So on paper, we could have two one-sided matches because we do have clear favorites, but it is preseason as well. We do have those roster changes, so we'll see how Liiv SANDBOX performs with their new players. And then, honestly, solo today is pretty stacked.
It's pretty stacked. I mean, yesterday was stacked as well, but today, I mean, we've not only got very familiar names, but also the storyline between kind of HoJun going up against two of his somewhat apprentices, right? Hero, a player that he coached, and then ByungSu, formerly known as Speed, who used to be his teammate back on Sensation in Preseason 1. That was a player that HoJun brought into Kart Rider Drift and said, join me in entering KDL. And then he says, peace, there's an opening in Liiv SANDBOX. I'm going to a pro team. And ByungSu's now over there. They get to match up 2 times today, in fact, both in teams and solos. And here we go. We are getting ready for our first match of the night, introducing the runners-up from Preseason 1. It is Liiv SANDBOX.
And this roster is the first new iteration of Liiv SANDBOX since they joined in Kart Rider League. It's been a long time, but MINSIK and Seungha, of course, have gone to do their mandatory military service. So now we do have ByungSu, as you mentioned, formerly Speed, coming in, as well as Dairdal, who will be the new item ace here, who's left the military. So as 2 go in, 1 returns. And of course, Dalton not an ex-Liiv SANDBOX player, but is coming to fill that spot. So Jimin kind of moving away from that item ace role. And we were all kind of, I think, as a global casting team, feeling like Jimin wasn't fully appreciated with how he was in terms of speed because he was the item ace. Now he's got an opportunity to do that here in team.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, he proved himself a couple times where he had the chance to sub in preseason 1 and also in solos. I mean, he had a great performance. So curious to see how that pans out. Now here is Sensation. They made it through the qualifiers once again. And I mean, the core of this roster are veterans, right? Obviously led by HoJun there in third walking in. But his teammates as well. And then this time he finds another player that they want to bring in and introduce to the KDL in the form of Joker.
Yeah, we'll see how Joker performs. You know, famously very good against the Freaks. He's been called the Freaks counter. So I'm told, you know, previously, of course, has just done very well against them. Won't be playing against them tonight, but he's got a lot of experience as well. So like you say, it's kind of like a strong team against an experienced team. And, you know, HoJun didn't have the greatest performances, to be honest, of course, in preseason 1, but he's had a lot more time to practice and prepare now.
Yeah, I mean, again, while the names are familiar, the form that they're in as a team, it's kind of veiled on both sides. But Liiv SANDBOX, I mean, they've always felt like such a sturdy brand here in Kart Rider, both in Kart Rider League and even in the KDL. So curious to see. We were talking about wondering kind of what the roles are going to be, and it looks like they trust ByungSu to be that speed ace, to be the person that they're always trying to put in first place.
Yeah, I think that's a good call. I think Neil has been a great runner. He's done such a great job when they go for that 1-2-4 setup that we've seen from Aura, that we've seen from Kwangno Freaks, that ends up being the best out of the starting blocks. So I think that he'll slot into this team quite nicely as long as everything goes according to plan.
Yeah, and of course, this was the opening match for both teams in Preseason 1 as well as the Liiv SANDBOX. Just giving a bit of a shout out to Preseason 1. Of course, it ended quite handily in favor of Liiv SANDBOX. They're just going to try to recreate that today in Preseason 2.
Yeah, I think Sensation only taking one track of speed. It was a 6-1 total for the 2-0 there. And of course, taking a look closer here on the side of Sensation, I wouldn't say they're massive underdogs here tonight, but the expectation is they will have a tougher time, especially in speed. Item is where things can be a little bit more complicated. We'll see, of course, how Dalda performs, returning so late in what is now the beginning of KDL.
Yeah, and I think Sensation may be a bit more hope, and this is nothing against Speed. I actually think Speed performed very well in Preseason 1, but of course, experience-wise, Joker comes in with a little bit more under his belt from the original Kart Rider. So does he fit maybe chemistry-wise better with the rest of the three who are also veterans of the original Kart Rider League?
This is a deep cut.
Oh, this is mean.
Yeah.
Well,
I think, I mean, everybody misses them, and,
yes.
I hope they are doing well. But I think this is a way of saying this team is just not going to be the same without them. And so perhaps they're taunting, saying, well, you were carried by them. You need them to win. And we'll find out,
yes.
will we, in this one, William? And I'm really looking forward to seeing where we're headed. Terracotta Twister. This one it is very commonly our first track, and I'm excited on my first day here of Preseason 2 that it will not disappoint.
Yeah, and it looks like afterwards in New York, in Extreme Stadium, actually, in round 3, that was the one track that you mentioned, Wolf, that Sensation picked up in their opening match in Preseason 1. See if it happens again. If we go to 4 and 5, we'll be seeing a couple of those WKC circuits, Singapore, which we did get to see yesterday, but then Japan will be our first look if it goes to round 5.
Yeah, I'm really excited to see Japan circuit potentially, but it will, of course, as you say, have to go to 5 for that to happen. And we do see bans here on Boom Hill Tunnel. That's one that has some painful memories, I'd say, for Liiv SANDBOX and Construction Chaos as well. I think New York Rally, a map that I always associate with Liiv SANDBOX doing very well on, especially Neil, has shown great performances there. So Sensation picking this one up, you know, we'll see if that ends up being the right choice here, because I think Liiv SANDBOX have just been so good on it.
Yeah, again, I'm very curious on both sides. How do these teams look, right? How do they really fulfill their roles? We were talking about Liiv SANDBOX earlier. Now with ByungSu as that speed ace, Neil, he's got to fill the middle role a little bit better, but we'll have to find out as we go into track 1. It is going to be Liiv SANDBOX's choice as they have speed priority. We will be finding out on World Tour Terracotta Twister to kick off speed mode between these two teams and their opening match here in Preseason 2. Have the players getting ready in the final moments here, just double checking everything on the stage.
Yeah, looks like just got to make sure we're all in and set. As everyone's settings got to be working well, we're going to have a rejoin of the lobby here.
Yeah, looks like it. Just have to reset that for a second. but we've always been able to just reboot things quite quickly here in KDL, so we won't have to wait too long. But that does give us a chance again to talk a little bit more about what we want to see or what we expect to see from the teams. I was mentioning, of course, Neil. While he's always been a great runner when he's left on his own, can he really support the team a bit better from right behind the first, second place?
That's a really good question, as well as will he be able to recover, because he had a bit of a rough time in the solo finals, of course. But looks like we're finally ready here now, William.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, this is going to be round 1 in speed mode. Of course, afterwards we'll still have item mode as well. So a long way to go as we first off go to World Tour Terracotta Twister. And the race begins.
Here we go. Really excited to see how this new roster is going to perform here for Liiv SANDBOX. Like I said, their starts are phenomenal, often getting 1, 2, 4 out the gate. But Joker competing for that first spot here. And as we go around these first few turns, he is getting collisions here with ByungSu, and actually will drop back. And man, Liiv SANDBOX with such tight control here. Bit of a collide there for Jimin, though, who will bounce back. So you have the 1-2 win condition right now as Liiv SANDBOX, but there's a lot on your tail here. Wow, a lot of collisions in this one.
Well, I mean, quite frankly, this is as bunched up as we've seen a race start here in Terracotta Twister. Generally, you see kind of everyone start to spread out as you enter the tube section here, but it looks like everyone's still going to be in contention. Jimin's already trying to put pressure onto Guard, but Guard says, no, I got to make room for HoJun to try to contest these 1-2 spots.
Yeah, HoJun here just trying to draft as best as he can. We'll have to take some greedy inners here, I think, if he is going to have any hope like this here. ByungSu actually pulling away from him, trying to deny the draft. He will hold on to it. And Guard and Percent doing such a great job of keeping Jimin and Neil off of their tail. So this is really just, essentially, it feels like a 1v2 up here in the top of the race. And if they can actually get HoJun up into first place, I mean, they'll have a realistic shot, but he is just having a tough time. Finally passes ByungSu.
Yeah, he's trying to cut ahead, but ByungSu does have his boost stacked up as well. The team boost coming in handy, so HoJun, he's not quite free just yet. He's going to need some support from Percent if he wants to get clear of ByungSu.
And Percent actually is just going to sneak his way through here. Now they can work together to actually block ByungSu out.
I love that play. HoJun tries to keep ByungSu at bay. It makes that opening for Percent. Now Percent is the one who they're trying to put into first place. Sensation really working the roster. And ByungSu, he does recover, but not in time.
Yeah, not in time. This is actually really going to hurt Sensation here with a lead right now in the final 500 meters here. Neil, though, trying to keep it close. He actually is going to pass.
It's a race for third place. Neil and HoJun. Can HoJun pass him? And no! It is going to be SANDBOX taking that 1-3-5, and they will be able to barely secure that first track.
Yeah, that very critical first place, pushing them over the edge on the 1-3-5, as you said. But man, things looked a little bit worrisome there, actually, in that final pass there, because we did see that drop off from ByungSu. He recovered well, but lost all momentum. And I think if Neil hadn't made that really fantastic late run, that late push there to third, this would not have been a victory here for Liiv SANDBOX, even though they were in control for a majority of the race. Bit of a mistake there at the end from ByungSu.
Yeah, I am curious. I wonder if we'll have a chance to get the replay or if we'll be jumping right in, because, I mean, it also looked like maybe ByungSu was trying to go for a greedy, aggressive play to make room for Neil, but either way, it does work out, right? Neil's able to take that opportunity where everyone has to kind of watch out for each other, and Neil speeds right into third place, because if it wasn't for that third place, of course, it was Sensation, but still 1 point total ahead. Liiv SANDBOX, though, beating 1-0 in speed mode.
Yeah. And Neil's so good at these late pushes as well. Something he's very famous for in team mode is the ability to actually hang back and then make that final push, sometimes with the assistance of the team boost. As we are going to get a replay of this for ByungSu here. Just looking like he wanted to avoid a collision there, but actually just took a bit of an early turn, avoiding HoJun.
Or maybe just trying to straight boost into HoJun, right? Either way, he's going for one or the other, either all in or nothing, trying to avoid it, but neither of those works out. But the thing is he did kind of land on HoJun's head. I mean, that was definitely not intentional, but that slows down HoJun just enough where the rest of Liiv SANDBOX can't catch up. So now Sensation, they are falling behind here in speed mode. Can they tie things up on their first pick in round 2? We will be going to our next track on World Tour New York Rally.
Off we go, Liiv SANDBOX in the lead, 1 track here as we move into New York Rally. And so far, Sensation in a great start.
Yeah, it looks like they should have a hefty lead. I mean, they've not only just got first place, but they still have other members here to support. So ByungSu, he's just trying to take a bit of a different build to try to create space on these wide sections. That's one of the things about New York Rally. While it is a single lapper, there are these sections where you can try to draft around, maybe create a little bit more space to find another opening.
ByungSu here just avoiding some collisions there as he and Neil are neck and neck competing with Percent right now. But HoJun, when HoJun is given the space to be the real speed ace and actually take that first place spot, man, he very rarely gives it up. But as I say this, HoJun is starting to contest.
Oh, HoJun, yeah, and I think HoJun's goal right now might just be to try to hold on to first place, put pressure on, and make an opening for ByungSu, right? You got to remember, ByungSu's going to be that player that maybe doesn't have the most experience in team mode to try to support, so if you give him an opening, he can then just race his own tempo to try to get into first. 2%
actually taking a tricky play here right as we move into the snake part of this turn here and blocking, but actually HoJun still competing with HoJun and takes control for just a moment, but actually takes a bit of an early turn and loses speed.
Yeah, and meanwhile, Percent angles himself just well enough so he actually gets the boost forward from ByungSu off of that collision. ByungSu's still holding close, so off of these final corners, a single draft off of these drifts could make a huge difference. HoJun is trying to contest. He's trying to make an opening for ByungSu, and right now they're holding the 2-3-4. In fact, it's going to be the 1-2-3 finish for Liiv SANDBOX. A dominant showing here in round 2.
You don't always see the nitros held until the end like that, because often if you wait that long, you won't have an opening, and if any collision occurs, you won't have the top speed you need. But actually, they hold it there till the final turn and all go through together there, knowing that at that moment, they'll have enough space to actually avoid any collisions, and actually going through at the final push there, I think taking HoJun a little bit by surprise. As, yeah, I mean, it looked for a moment there like Sensation have this one on lock, but it's these late pushes from Liiv SANDBOX again where they're able to take the lead, and a 2-0 start now here. It's looking rough for Sensation, and I think both rounds were close, especially the second one where HoJun did have ultimate control, but it almost felt like Liiv SANDBOX were like, I'm gonna now reveal the big push, you know, like it is.
Yeah, strategically, right? They just seem to be one step ahead in this grand chess game.
Yeah.
While HoJun was just racing, right, on his own. And quite frankly, it works out well, not only, like you mentioned, the boost management itself, but also if there's 3 people on your tail, now HoJun has to kind of pick and choose, who am I guarding against? Do we have other places that we can get? If you're not prepared for it, that's a lot of calculations you got to run in your head, and it was not enough. Well, this should be a comfortable track for Sensation. We go to round 3 on Glacier Extreme Stadium. And the race begins as Liiv SANDBOX looks to close things out in speed mode 3-0.
Yeah, some attempts here from Joker to grab some aggressive snaking here off the start. We'll pull ahead with Percent, see if they can hold on to this one. HoJun actually sitting in the back here, and this is when HoJun has struggled the most, is when he actually doesn't have that start he's looking for, because he hasn't been a very successful runner, at least so far here in KDL Preseasons. But good start here regardless for Percent and Joker, as HoJun once again has been the guy who is just breaking these lines so incredibly well.
Yeah, I mean, quite frankly, it almost feels like HoJun is fulfilling all the roles that Liiv SANDBOX needs, right? I mean, he's sweeping when he needs to, and then if they need it, he goes into first place, holds it, applies some pressure. He is really working overtime as that new captain for the squad.
Yeah, it's almost like he's both ooh, that's rough for HoJun. It's almost like he's both a sweeper and a runner at the same time, and he's just setting up without using that much nitro, or relying on his team nitro to actually get Neil in a position to make that final push. And now Neil up here in 4th. I mean, 3 of those top 4 spots held by Liiv SANDBOX, with HoJun falling so significantly behind. You can see on the mini-map there, I mean, he's about 2 seconds behind, it feels like, almost for the rest of the team, almost irrelevant. So this feels like a 3v4 here for Sensation.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, these are times when it suddenly gets really simple for your opponents, because they can just say, well, 8th place is a lock for our opponents, so we have so many other options to get the points total, to get the lead. Currently, Sensation, sure, they're leading by 1 point by holding the 1st and 4th place, but however, HoJun and ByungSu, they're applying pressure on both sides of Percent.
Yeah, Neil actually dropping back into 8th as well, giving them that extra point is pretty massive. But look at this, the final push again here as we move through these hairpins. HoJun holding on to first, ByungSu pushing around the right side. 500 meters to go. Percent the only one.
Oh, it comes in and he does push one out of the way, but Jimin is trying to hold close, and it's still a 1-3-4 finish here for Liiv SANDBOX, as they will be able to close out speed mode handily 3-0.
Yeah, it's just these final pushes from Liiv SANDBOX, man. I was talking about it beforehand about how they're so good on the start. I feel like that's kind of been the opposite case tonight, where it's been Sensation with some really great starts, where you're seeing ByungSu have to battle his way back through, but he does so carefully and so clinically. We're not really seeing any collisions. Now, obviously on Terracotta Twister, ByungSu made that one error, but I feel like he has definitely been the MVP here for Liiv SANDBOX, just absolutely crushing it here. And, I mean, it's a dominant win here in speed mode, 3-0.
I mean, I think it's a very promising look for SANDBOX. I think the fact that we haven't had to mention ByungSu too much is actually maybe even comforting for SANDBOX, seeing that, okay, he's just fulfilling that one role, right? We just need him to be in the top couple positions. We can give him time to really get accustomed to our style of team play. Meanwhile, the rest of the roster are doing what they can to make sure they secure the wins. And like you said, it seems like, sure, individual mechanics, maybe Sensation they're keeping up, but from a team play perspective, the macro strategy of a speed mode squad race, Liiv SANDBOX was on top.
Now, Dalda will be, of course, subbing in for Neil. Neil doesn't play in item mode in this formation of Liiv SANDBOX. Will be Darda, who's returned from the military, and he's known for being an item specialist. This is what he was good at in Kartrider League, and the guy is very smart, but consider also they do have Jimin, who was the former item ace on this roster as well, so it's kind of like they have two item aces. They have two players who are so incredibly specialized in this mode and have both promised or shown promising results. So on the other side for Sensation here, we'll see how they perform, of course, but no substitution here. They don't have that same specialist, so the fact this already is a 3-0 start here doesn't bode well necessarily for Sensation, but anything could happen in item mode.
Yeah, absolutely, especially again with a couple changes that we've had. We saw it yesterday. Item mode is definitely a lot more chaotic as we take a look at the track. Sensation did have first pick, and they will be bringing us to Shark's Wake to start.
Yeah, Shark's Wake, then Village Town Hall, Forest Mushroom Caves, Magma Cavern, and Sphinx's Riddle. Liiv SANDBOX banned Polar Half-Pipe because they hate fun. No, I'm just sad we're not going to see it tonight, but it is a map that's very volatile, and I think if you feel like you're the stronger team, you'd like to avoid it. London Knight, similar situation. You were talking about it earlier. I actually really like these bans from Liiv SANDBOX.
Yeah, I think just making sure that they go for the ones that they are very confident in, not really leaving any wildcard curveballs open here in item mode. Again, because the meta currently is also still quite volatile in terms of what is the strategy that most teams favor. I mean, you probably don't even know exactly what your opponents have been prepping here for the opening matches of KDL Preseason 2.
Yeah. And as we talked about at the beginning of the show with the item changes coming through, I do think with Magnet being more tempo-based, as well as the fact that, you know, it's not as much about a final push as a kind of slow and steady wins the race. Like, we're not in a hare meta, we're in a tortoise meta now, you know? It is actually important at all times to maintain that advantage. So we've seen in the past, you know, teams just simply wait for the item combo, then push to get into top 4, then use those items. But I think now you really need to be always staying up in the front, always trying to push for first, especially with UFO getting nerfed as well.
Yeah, there's just so many options that can happen. You got to be ready for anything, always ready to overtake. We'll find out what both squads have prepared as we go into track 1. It's Glacier, Shark's Wake. And item mode begins. Sensation trying to bring this back so they can have another chance to go to the ace match.
Some things don't change. You will see Guard and HoJun hang back to see if they can get some strong items here at the start. Magnets picked up by Guard right now as Joker is going to maintain first place, and EMP buffed now, taking out both UFO and Magnet. So ByungSu actually holding on to that in first place and avoiding that bomb as well. He's going to be feeling pretty good. We'll use the EMP to do just what it's for, block that UFO right away.
Yeah, just making sure that he's able to keep the lead for just a bit longer. Of course, still quite a few shuffles here and there, and we see a lot more UFOs, right? The drop rates definitely showing their hand here in KDL Preseason 2.
Jimin does have the Magnet here, and he's holding on to first place. I actually really like seeing how Jimin is going to use these new items, just because he was such an expert before. Even though Darda is technically the ace, he's hanging at the back right now of the standings. But got my eyes on Jimin, see if he's got something special prepared here.
Oh, and look at the Angels already being stacked by Liiv SANDBOX. Now that the Angels only block 1 attack per, I mean, you really want to make sure you have a couple extra so that you can really rotate them through in the final lap. You can't just rely on the 1 to buy time.
Jimin did have double shields here. We'll pop both of them actually to avoid that missile there. And double lightning actually here for Percent. That's actually quite rare to have while being this high up in the standings. He might just want to hold on to that and become a supportive role here for his team and stack them as we get towards the end of this final lap. It's just so rare to actually have both of those. I've never seen it before, so let's see how much of an impact it can make.
The chances of that happening are quite rare, and I think Percent understands that this is such a good opportunity to just burn through the opponent's Angel shields and try to make an opening. Now, we do still see 2 Angels on the side of HoJun. Will they come into play? One of the missiles already draws out an Angel. Lightnings are still available, only 400 meters left.
Jimin here gonna get UFO'd on his push, but HoJun's got a shield.
Oh, the double lightning comes out. Everyone's been slowed down, and Joker, the UFO's a little too late. He just boosts right through.
The lightning, man. That is just not fair.
I mean, that was so strong, and I love that they use the missiles and whatever else to kind of bait out the Angels, right? They wait until it's already past the 500-meter mark, and then they say, okay, cycle through everything, Angels come out, lightning, go, go.
Yeah, and when you have also those targeted missiles as well onto Jimin's push, you know you're going to burn his shield instantly. They also were constantly targeting him, and he was one of the prime candidates for taking that first place, but the lightning just comes through double there, and maybe it's something that's not in the patch notes, like officially, maybe the drop rate is changed, or maybe it's just pure luck, but actually having the ability to AoE nuke the entire team in quick succession back-to-back is one of the strongest item steps you could ever have in Cartwrighter here. So well played, and Sensation bouncing back a little bit here in this series, fighting back at least in our first track of item.
Yeah, well, it definitely shows that they are now aware of the kind of the strengths and combinations, right? While double lightning isn't common, when they got it, they said, okay, well, this gives us a very clear win plan that's, you know, they're not going to be prepared for. I mean, you don't really expect that too much. And even then, I mean, SANDBOX was playing it by the book. They said, okay, Angel Shield's been nerfed. Let's stack those. We'll even keep extra shields in first place. Was not enough against double lightning. We'll see if SANDBOX can bounce back in round 2 as we go to their selection. It is going to be Village Town Hall.
Off we go here for round 2 of items. Sensation taking their first track of the series here. See what items do come out from the first boxes. It will be Jimin who actually gets that Magnet Rush combo. Not as common to be used, of course, on this patch for finishing, but we'll use it for tempo here to push up to top 4.
Yeah, we'll just see. I mean, again, I think that's one of the key things is, do we see it eventually being saved for lap 3 if you still have it? It's still a strong combo. It's just the fact that, are you ready for the potential EMP, right? Maybe the magnet just is not useful at all in the last lap.
Yeah, and it doesn't pull as much as it used to either. Like, it's significantly nerfed. So it's hard. If you hold on to that combo, then just get hit by somebody. Your team can't always shield you anymore. As we do see Jimin actually pulling ahead, using those items for tempo, and actually will be able to slide into double boxes here and grab 2 shields, which is extremely strong right now. And Jimin is a player who does this strategy often where he just pushes ahead early and then just tries to defensively shield with his team's Angels as well. We've seen Jimin do this quite a lot where he actually just tries to get about half a lap ahead and he's like, I'm just so far ahead, I'm too big to fail. And this is one of those scenarios.
Yeah, I mean, that's the other thing is that now it's also important for Dalda to be here because if Jimin draws all the aggro, Dalda's still in second place, right? So he still has an opportunity to try to get through. Now it's up to Dalda to try to maybe manage his, I guess, inventory as he tries to be that next up for Liiv SANDBOX.
Yeah, and this is the Wisp coming through here as well. The Wisp has one of the best ways to shut down that first place. Talking about can be frustrating if you have that lead. And, well, Jimin is going to be the one who takes the brunt of it, dropping all the way back to 8th for a moment there. And now HoJun on the final lap here, drawing some fire here, will use both of his shields. See what he picks up here, 1 more shield. They have an Angel stacked as well.
Yeah, and a nice block from Joker as well. He actually just body blocks him, and Dalda now gets hit by all the items. He's been spun out, and there's still 2 members up front with an Angel and a boost as well. Joker's feeling so confident that he can just get right across the finish line.
Oh, another Wisp too, and Lightning coming out here in the final moments, but I think it's too little too late. Look at the blocks here. Barricade!
Oh, not enough, Joker. He gets hit by it slightly, but he just boosts right off to the side, bounces across the finish finish line.
Sensation looking like they've got some good mastery of this item mode so far here. And I think that G-Man trying to use that old strategy of holding on to first place and pushing, you know, as far as you can, as quickly as you can, using as many nitros as you can, because that's an item you'll pick up still a lot when you are in those higher places. Doesn't work out ultimately with the Wisp drop rate. He's just targeted repeatedly. He drops back down. Then you see Joker come through. HoJun as well with him for quite some time, having all of those shields and the Angels. They had too much of a tempo advantage. It's more important, of course, to have that lead in the final lap, not so much in laps 1 and 2.
Yeah, and so far what we've seen repeated in both the first and second round, Sensation, they kind of wait for someone to have a boost. Both time it was actually Joker with that boost. Once he has at least one boost, everyone else is just trying to cycle through to get that aggression going into lap 3. And then they just dogpile all of their attacks onto a couple members of Liiv SANDBOX, makes an opening for Joker, and then he just boosts right across the finish line.
Yeah, it's kind of like we're bringing back almost like a team fight meta here in item mode, where you actually have that one final fight, that one final push, winner takes all. It's really cool to see, though, because I think this style of item mode, for me, is way more enjoyable than what we saw in Preseason 1.
Yeah, I mean, it's much more dynamic, and also there's kind of this rock, paper, scissors going, right? There's still a counter to the magnet, but then if they have that, they're not going to have as many shields, and then it keeps cycling through. So a lot more mind games as well, which is where what you mentioned earlier, Wolf, the whole tempo, you got to start to figure out how much of our hand do we show? How much do we want to condition them in the first 2 laps to prepare for the final push in lap 3?
Yeah, now Forest Mushroom Caves, which will be our 3rd track here, could be the final one of item mode. A very basic track. Let's see if Sensation can close this one out, or if Liiv SANDBOX will push back.
The race begins as Sensation leads 2-0 in item mode, looking to bring us to that ace match in their opening match of Preseason 2.
We're going to see a missile fly here, as well as now ByungSu taking the lead, has his own with the shield. He'll pop at ears. It's getting very chaotic here as ByungSu now. It's tough to be the first guy to be in first, to be honest.
Yeah, it's one of those things where it's like, well, is this really a blessing or is it a curse? Because I'm not quite sure. There's still a ways to go. Now, we should note, while it is a simple track, because of the length, it is a 2-lapper, and it's actually got several narrow spots where these barricades and these water bombs will have a lot of effect.
Yeah, that's what we jumped right into, so I couldn't actually explain, but that's exactly what I was going to say. It's while it is very basic and there's not a lot of like architecture on the map that you need to be aware of, the narrow corridors are where these timings for these balloons especially are going to be really massive. And Joker actually has that Wisp in first place, but will get caught by the UFO. And G-Man holding on to a lightning here, so let's see how he uses this. He might want to use it for tempo, or could actually just wait and hold it and say, well, guys, now I'm not going to be the runner. I'm just going to sit back here and attack, and then hold that lightning for that final push. Looks like that's what he's going to do.
Yeah, and if that's going to be the case, maybe ByungSu's got to be the one who gets into a position where he's able to shoot forward. He has that boost right now on the side of Liiv SANDBOX. Dalda already ready with another one as well. However, they are so far behind, so HoJun's actually just sitting in first place trying to body block the rest of Sensation so that Liiv SANDBOX can always be in contention.
Yeah, and G-Man actually gets both. Well, he did drop one, but now he's got the Wisp and the Lightning here, so he is actually very powerful. Going to toss that Wisp out right now. Holding onto that Lightning still here, but Percent and HoJun in full control.
Yeah, and now they bait out the Angel with a missile. However, another Angel looks like it's available for HoJun. Is Liiv SANDBOX ready for this one? Because Sensation look like they just want to close things out. And there's the Angel to block off the Lightning. Not another one in store, and Sensation guard just shoots forward. Closes out 3-0.
Yeah, I actually really like the way that they played this. Not only closing out 3-0, but it's a top 4 finish there. The Angel timing was perfect, and I think it was just really telegraphed. And while I like the idea of G-Man hanging back, he picked up a UFO while he was holding Lightning, tossed that one out for some tempo, then had the Wisp, which he didn't try to use to block the teammates. Holding the Lightning like that, not trying to make any aggressive passes or attacking to cycle through those items when you get less item usage overall. And while it was a good strategy, it is, as you said, blocked by one Angel ultimately at the end, and they timed the Angel there with that final push. Guard has a Nitro to seal the deal, and Sensation, they read it well, and you can't hide what items you have, right? Everyone could see that, so it becomes really easy to react and plan as a team. And I think Sensation, just in general today, had great communication, great coordination, and we had 2 back-to-back 3-0s, but now it's ace match time, and I'm looking forward to seeing who is going to come out here for Liiv SANDBOX, because the assumption would be ByungSu, right? But it's hard to say, and I think HoJun, he's had his moments. Will Sensation continue to trust him here is the question, because I think with his experience, he's got to be the guy you send.
Yeah, I mean, I think, sure, you know, he had a little bit of an up and down in preseason 1. He's still trying to get used to Kart Rider Drift as he returns to pro play. So despite his career, maybe not as great of a performance yet, however, you got to give him another chance, right? I mean, he's been so trustworthy. The reason he was called, I mean, the King of Kart Rider is because he evolved with all these different metas in the original game. So surely, with time, he will get used to Kart Rider Drift. Now, big question, you said, you know, HoJun, of course, just because of the captain role, he's a good contender, but also you brought in ByungSu to be that guy, to be the speed ace. Do you send him out to defeat his old teammates of Sensation? I mean, that would be a storyline.
It certainly would. I think the one player, it pains me to say this, but the one player I don't want to see here for Liiv SANDBOX is Neil, actually. I think he has been a notorious choker so far here in KDL. And I think that with a high-stakes match like this, against Sensation, I don't want to say it's a weak team, but this is a team that you realistically should be beating, and to actually get upset in an ace match, if we do see something like that happen with Neil, the choke potentially coming through, you know, it's definitely not the result you want. I think it could hurt Neil's confidence early on in the season, despite a great solo performance already from him. But we'll have to wait and see. Like, the coaches obviously know more than us, but I'm feeling like trust your new captain in HoJun. That's my take.
Yeah, I mean, it looks like they're really running through the options here of, you know, who's going to play, trying to figure out, right? Of course, kind of being notified of the track that's going to be here for the ace match, so we'll have to wait to see. But it looks like they're just running through. Here's the thing, Liiv SANDBOX, they could send anyone out, and you couldn't fault them, right? They're all very good. They're all very good. But the question is how are they feeling today? The coaches know, and looks like, okay, maybe it's Neil. I get what you're saying, though. We'll have to wait to see the confirmation. But the thing about Neil is, this genius of a racer as he is, sometimes we don't see him be as ice cold as some of these other players when it comes to a 1v1.
Yeah, I feel like Neil is so good in team scenarios because he finds these new builds for tracks that, you know, when it's a 1v1, it's not as useful to be able to leap across 4 people, for example, to take the win or to make a late push. You need to be able to consistently hold that. And I think that Neil often seems to get nervous, and I think it's almost related to how popular he's become as a player. Like, the pressure seems to have built up. And I love Neil as a player, and I think he absolutely, when he plays his best, could be the best ace match player in KDL.
Sure.
But we just don't see that best from him all the time. You still see it like 60, 75% of the time. But I want to see if he does perform today. I really hope he clutches it. I really hope he nails it, because I want to see that confidence come back. I want to be able to say, I think Neil is a good fit for ace match. And until he proves it again, I just don't know if I could say that. He cost Liiv SANDBOX big in preseason 1 in the playoffs. So let's see what happens here. Is a lot of debate.
Yeah, they're still talking.
This is why we have preseasons. Is you know, Nexon and Afrika are going to be like, all right, well, I think we actually have to add a timer to this for season 1.
Maybe. I mean, yeah, this is why we're
HoJun. I mean, it's probably going to be HoJun, right? But he's like sitting here like, all right, so are you guys going to pick or what?
Yeah, he's like, are we racing or what? Like, we're here to play some Kart Rider Drift. Like, come on, let's get the game going. And it looks like, okay, the decision has been made, but it would be nice. I mean, if Neil comes out, I agree with what you're proposing, right? Is that he does so well when he lets other people kind of fight amongst themselves, even in solos. If it's an 8-person race, he looks amazing. But when it comes to that 1v1, he's got to make his own fights happen. And it's going to be New York Rally, so a returning track from earlier.
This is a Neil track, though, if I've ever seen one. Like, I really do feel like this is a great track for Neil. He's shown great experience on this. It would feel so fitting if he returns to form and clutches it on this one. And we'll see if they actually have the faith to trust him here. A lot of discussion went into this, no doubt. But I do feel better about a potential Neil pick knowing the track. And it will be him and HoJun as expected here.
Ooh, all right. I mean, HoJun versus Neil. I mean, these are two players that have such amazing titles and careers behind them, right, under their belt. Obviously, HoJun, no need to explain that. But also for Neil, I mean, he was one of those players that came from abroad into Korea. He already had trophies in his own region, comes into Korea, gets a trophy on his own again, and then he's now on the squad of Liiv SANDBOX. I mean, this is a sick matchup.
I mean, finalists, of course, back-to-back in both teams and solo as well. A player who's already got quite a decorated career in Kart Rider Drift. So it feels like a clash of one of the oldest legends versus one of the newer contemporary legends. It's practically an anime storyline here for our first ace match.
Well, here we go. Ace match for Liiv SANDBOX versus Sensation. We go to World Tour New York Rally to see which team will be picking up their first win in Preseason 2. And boosting onto the streets of New York, it is Neil for Liiv SANDBOX and HoJun for Sensation.
A one-lap track here to decide it all. HoJun already with a significant lead here right now, but Neil, well, little collision there, but did have a boost advantage. But HoJun, I think, now has well and truly taken that back into his own hands here. And Neil has already given himself quite a handicap for this one, as HoJun has a pretty massive lead. Neil's struggling to maintain draft range, but he will be able to do it just there. Yeah, he's on the edge of it.
Yeah, he's just trying to inch in now. As we go through a couple of these corners, he should be able to close the gap just enough off of these boosts. Yeah, he's trying to get into range. There we go. The drafts are starting to come through, so now it's all about the timing of it. Neil's going to take the first draft right away. Try to overtake him as they get near to the later part of the track.
Yeah, HoJun a little bit behind in terms of the boost meter here, but it's very slight as Neil actually just barely going to try to pass, but HoJun with a great block there now has the ability to take a more aggressive inner, and Neil in a little bit of trouble. Might need to actually boost early here to try to go for the pass as we are getting closer to the end of this single lap track.
Yeah, Neil's still well ahead in boost gauge though, right? He's always a full boost ahead. So I think right now Neil's just looking to say, okay, if I can draft once here, that's fine, but I want to make sure I save the draft cooldown for the last stretch where I can just boost right past him.
Yeah, here we go, going around this final really annoying corner for the leader. It's hard to block this one, but HoJun does it so well twice in a row. That was incredible. HoJun.
What a stop from HoJun. He understands what the game plan was from Neil, and now HoJun, he has his own boost. However, no one's going to get the draft. It's all about the boost, and HoJun's just keeping ahead of Neil, and Neil actually boosts right away to the side. Neil with the great understanding that HoJun wants to block him at the end, forces HoJun to lose speed.
Oh man, that was one of the best ace matches I have ever seen.
God.
That was so sick. I mean, that final corner on New York is where it is so tough as the leader. He knew exactly the moment Neil was going to try to pass him, and he blocked him twice, and Neil still took more aggressive turns to build that boost meter and actually boost early. And you can see HoJun, I mean, he described it with his fingers, this there what happened, as it was insanely close, and it just felt like Neil just had more nitro, man. Oh, Neil.
Man.
And the thing about this race is I feel like he did it his own way, too. He did it in the Neil way, where he's like, I've got a plan here. You block that plan, but I'm always going to surprise you. I'm always going to have another trick up my sleeve. Look at how close it was, but a lot of the time, solo is just like one mistake decides it. We're all just sitting back as spectators being like, it's over. Sometimes it's very clutch at the end, but there's a clear moment where you know. This time it was at the very end. And you can see how excited the team is, too, because they know he just nailed it. That was a great ace match. I'm really hyped right now.
Yeah, I mean, you could see it, like you mentioned, from the players themselves. It was almost as if they like finally won the match again to players. Look at this. HoJun actually still is able to get the edge a bit, and HoJun's game plan is I'm going to block him to force him to lose speed. And then Neil says, oh, that gives me that opening to just boost right past you as you're trying to block me. And Neil actually takes a straightaway, right? He's already angled his cart. He takes the straightaway off of that boost.
And if you turn attempting the block, you will lose speed. And Neil is able to find the right angle and just go straight as the crow flies right to the checkered line. And I mean, that's how you're going to maximize speed. But I thought HoJun played incredibly too. He had the early lead. His blocks were great, and that was high level what we just saw there. And that gives me hope as well for HoJun, because some of his ace matches have been a little bit disappointing, but this was absolutely not. Despite the loss here, ultimately, I think this Sensation is looking, at least on paper, stronger than what we saw in Preseason 1.
Oh, I absolutely agree, because in Preseason 1, it was almost as if like, well, okay, you really only have speed mode going for you, and even that didn't look that good. But here, while it was a 3-0 in speed mode for SANDBOX, they actually struck back strong in item mode. And even the ace match, like you said, it wasn't so much HoJun making any mistake. He actually played it so well. But Neil just says, I'm one step ahead of you. And he has that final boost to the side at an angle. Secures a victory for Liiv SANDBOX.
Yeah, really, really exciting stuff. All the mind games and ace matches. And this is the moment for me, too, where, like, you see that clutch from Neil, and I go, well, I will never doubt him again, right? I'm going to trust. I'm ready to trust. Yeah, this one's for me. Like, I'm ready to trust again. I think
man.
Neil is one of the most consistent players in KDL outside of critical 1v1s, right? That has, at the end of Preseason 1, in both solos and in team mode, it seemed to be a bit of a weakness for him, but he's got his mojo back.
Yeah, I mean, he looked so good. The fact that he had that kind of awareness to say, okay, I still need another plan should I get stopped and blocked on these last couple corners. And he just says, okay, he doesn't give up. He knows, okay, I see HoJun's trying to aggressively block me in the straightaway. Oh, that means if I just avoid you, you'll lose your speed. I mean, what a way to make that split-second decision. But that means Liiv SANDBOX, they will be kicking things off with a win yet again here in Preseason 2. And Sensation, while it is a loss, I think, like you said, still very promising.
And the item mode for Sensation was also very good. And item mode, you know, we had a few teams kind of master it. I thought Liiv SANDBOX were very good at it. I thought Aura had their own take on it, and they were very strong. And otherwise, it sometimes felt like you don't know what you're going to get until you see the players' forms on the day. But I think Sensation had a much better read than Liiv SANDBOX, and that's not something we could say very often. In fact, Liiv SANDBOX won most of their matches in Preseason 1 with a 2-0. It wasn't like they were only good at speed and ace matches, but they were actually closing them out consistently. And in their first matchup, running into a bit of a snag in Sensation.
Yeah, I mean, again, I think Sensation just really taking it to heart that, okay, it is a much more aggressive meta now, right? It's a much more offensive meta here in the item mode. And Liiv SANDBOX, maybe they're going to have to go back to the drawing board because, like you said, out of the pro teams, Guangdong Freaks, Liiv SANDBOX, and Rocks, SANDBOX was the strongest item mode team, no doubt.
Yeah, no doubt. And, like, I think that we'll see teams start to figure out item mode better since it's still a new patch, which, in my opinion, basically makes item mode like a completely different game than it was before because of how the it's better. Okay, so it's much better
Just
now.
take our word for it. It's better.
It's better, and like it still will take some time to adjust because up until this point, you spent the entirety of Kart Rider Drift before the pro scene, before preseason, studying how to work on those timings for finishing with Magnet, and now it's a completely different skill set. And you can see Jimin, I think, to a certain extent, falling back into that older style of play, and then getting punished for it by those wisps there. Not that it was a bad idea in this case, but I think losing a little bit of steam and a little bit of power there. So some adjustments will be made.
Yeah, of course. We'll have to wait to see how that evolves during Preseason 2. But ladies and gentlemen, we are far from done yet for tonight. We have another team match, and of course, afterwards, solo matches as well. So we'll take a quick break. When we come back, it's match 4 of team matches here in Preseason 2 of KDL. Welcome back, everyone. After a quick break, we return with our next match of the night. It's another team matchup between Aura and Seraphic for match 4 of the round robin stage.
Yeah, it's going to be exciting to see if Aura can come back and be successful again. One of our dark horse teams, of course, for preseason 1. And we're going to walk them out onto the stage right now. Is this team so good at speed mode, but also having a lot of great strategies for item as well. One of the reasons why they pushed so high up into our standings at the end of regular season and did make that heroic run nearly to the finals.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this is a team, while, you know, they are under an amateur banner, they don't have a pro team backing them up just yet. Even all the pro teams, they were very aware of the strength that this squad brings, and of course, they're all veterans, several of them having been on some of the best pro teams in Kartrider League previously, so we can see why they made a deep run into the playoffs last preseason. But now their first match is against another amateur banner here in Seraphic.
Yeah, Seraphic coming in with some familiar faces. Of course, MINSIK, Promise, Scarlet, and Mari going to be the main roster here for speed. And it's a team that I think brings some of our, I guess you could say, middle of the pack players together here. And, you know, I think it's a team that has some potential, but we'll have to wait and see what it's going to look like. Because sometimes you have teams, obviously, who are not great together, but you split them apart and put them onto a new team like this, and they're actually greater than the sum of their parts, you know, from what we've seen. So I'm hoping this is going to be the case here for Seraphic because, you know, I think they are a team that if they don't start performing well, right, some of these players, then they'll be one of our lower performing teams just on paper. But I'm hoping not. I'm hoping they actually bring the challenge here to Aura tonight. So we said we had 2 clear favorites today. That was already, that, you know, perspective was kind of already changed when we saw the ace match in our first series. Maybe we'll be surprised again here tonight.
Yeah, and Aura, I mean, the 1-2 punch that they're talking about, obviously they showed a lot of that promise during preseason 1, where a couple of their racers like Hero, like Season Nog, they kind of take turns just really taking over the podium and even their speed mode races. See if that continues as a trend here. And when we go to item mode, Tech, he's a player that actually used to be well known for his water bomb usage as well, and now that item has kind of indirectly gotten buffed because of the nerfs to some of these other items.
Yeah, it's really important to actually hit those. Aren't you guys the team that cried when you qualified? Lol.
I like it really personifying the taunt here.
You know, we were actually a top 3 team in preseason 1. I mean, maybe you... After you qualify, you guys cried, but maybe that's the most happiness you're going to get.
Yeah, well, I mean, hopefully not for Seraphic, because like you mentioned, Wolf, again, we've seen a lot of their faces in preseason 1. We should note right here on camera, Snoopy, he used to be known as Pure in preseason 1, now rebranding himself on this new roster, and I would love to see them kind of make a name for themselves like Aura did in preseason 1.
Yeah, I do think that rebranding here, Snoopy, trying to show a new identity. He is the item ace. I thought Pure was, in preseason 1, of course, a very good item ace, but he didn't hold a candle to Tech as... let me see. Oh, you guys item match lost.
Against Revenger. I mean, really, we're bringing up qualifier match results here to try to prove something against Aura, who had a top 3 finish in preseason 1.
Yeah, I mean, look, you got to say something, right? It's a requirement, you know?
Yes, yes.
Production's going to call you and say, what are you guys going to say? They're like, we don't have a lot of mean things to say, but we will try to come up with something. Very polite trash talk, I guess you could say.
Yeah, I mean, you know, picking at whatever you can, but hey, at least it's something to your name in this matchup as we take a look at the speed mode list here. Now, we should note, Seraphic got the coin flip win, and they actually chose item priority, so Aura will be able to get that first track choice here in speed mode.
Yeah, that's pretty rare, but I think it says that they are very confident in their ability to play item, and I think also knowing that Aura has been such a great team with that 1-2 punch in speed. Just take a look at the tracks. We are going to Singapore Circuit first, so we'll be seeing that one guaranteed here. Then Facility 5, Extreme Stadium, Mine Winding Slopes, and then Boom Hill Tunnel, which was banned, of course, in our previous series. So we will not be seeing New York Rally. We're not going to be seeing Japan here either. So very different list of tracks this time around. And, you know, no Terracotta Twister, also banned here by Seraphic.
Yeah, good point, actually. Terracotta Twister being banned and then Factory Facility 5 being selected early on. Not very common, right, both of those choices, but that does give us a little bit of variance here in our speed mode track list, so that's good news for the viewers who just want to see how all these racers do on a couple of these newer tracks. And, of course, one of those is going to be Singapore Circuit that came with a refurbished look here, or renewed look, rather, here for WKC Liiv as we go into track number 1. As we see the fireworks go off in the back, the race begins between Aura and Seraphic.
Already Hero up in the front with not MINSIK passing, but it is very tight here in our top 3 as promised. Has a little bit of extra space here with Mari. Anti-Sushi there with that collision, but will be, of course, trying to approach here as Hero is just maintaining the spot, taking some really tight turns. Knock in draft range, though, and actually could even use a Team Nitro to push ahead if they'd like to. Aura loves to get 1-2 early, hold on to that, and that is their biggest win condition. Looning, like Neil, a player who often makes a final push towards the end. I'm actually really glad he got picked up here by Aura. I think he's a fantastic player, has a lot of potential.
Yeah, we'll have to see, though, if Looning can make that run, because right now it's going to be Seraphic who's putting a lot of pressure onto that 1-2. So while Hero and Knock are holding on to it, they don't have much support to block these 3 racers from Seraphic who are trying to catch up to them and break apart that barricade that Knock's trying to put up.
I think that Knock here is a great defender, and he has shown it so many times, and once again, doing a great job, but there is just a war of attrition you may eventually lose. But here's that rush from Looning pushing through here as we crest the second lap now. And now you have a little bit more defensive options here as Aura. I say that, though, and Promise and MINSIK are going to actually win that battle initially here.
Yeah, eventually Knock's going to have to give that one opening. Now he's starting to put pressure on, but here's the thing. If Knock puts pressure on, even if he doesn't get second place eventually, Looning's now in position to overtake and still get a clear 1-2. Aura seems to say, forget calculations, forget all the options. If you get 1-2, you win anyway.
Yeah, and now with Looning just on sweeper duty here, it's really easy, and they're actually pushing further and further ahead. It's very difficult for Promise. Mari could try to take an aggressive outer here, but the risk is so high. I think this one might just be all locked up here, unfortunately, for Seraphic. Aura in just such a phenomenal position now.
Yeah, it looks like there isn't much of a chance. Looning has been doing such a good job of just making sure that the Seraphic players are losing speed around these corners, right? He's always closing in on him. Scarlet this time will find one opening, but again, it's a little too late, it feels like. We're going to the last couple corners.
Yeah, this is it. Scarlet trying his best here, but there is just no contest. Easy 1-2 here for Aura, as they like to do, as they are famous for, and starting this season off just the same way. I thought Looning, you know, looked for a moment like maybe he's actually going to get blocked out. They didn't have any support, and that's the cool thing about Aura, is even without support, their 1-2 just seems to be so clean. And we saw for so long Knock was able to actually play defensively and sacrifice a lot just to make sure Hero could have that wide berth. And when they tried to actually then overwhelm him, Looning sees an opportunity. He gets up into third place, he starts sweeping, and Hero will set a new track record here, passing Dings from Sungnam Rock. So great start here for Aura, and nothing unexpected, you know, nothing has really changed.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Aura is just playing their own game, and quite frankly, I mean, being able to win so many tracks in that 1-2 finish is not an easy feat to do, but that's why, again, this is a squad that even some of the pro teams are starting to say, okay, we got to watch out for this team.
Yeah, absolutely. Factory Facility 5 is going to be our next track here, one that, again, we don't see all too often, but is a track selection for Seraphic. So to see what their plan is here, maybe they have a special strategy prepared. It has a lot of wide open spaces at the initial parts and like very long straightaways. So holding those leads, you know, especially towards the beginning is pretty easy, but it gets a little trickier, of course, when you get to some of those really tight turns and corners, as there are some like mini hairpins on this track as well.
Yeah.
And that's how you can break the 1-2. So I think it's a track that, especially because those turns are right at the end of the track, some of them, a great way to actually mess with Aura's strategy and game plan.
Yeah, I do like the selection now that you've mentioned kind of how that could be played out. See if Aura still to hold on to that 1-2 position, or will Seraphic make things a bit more interesting as we go into round number 2 for Factory Facility 5.
Off we go here. Aura leading 1-0 right now, and at the beginning of the track here, once again, Hero and C's pushing up to the front here as MINSIK really the only one could test. Still early days here, but we're moving now away from those long straightaways, and this is where things are going to get a little bit tighter here. Let's see what Seraphic has planned.
Yeah, I mean, already Aura still holding on to the 1-2, so we'll see if they can keep that up. MINSIK's putting up pressure, though. He's trying to break apart that duo. This time it is going to be Hero and C's, and we talked about it. You know, it's always kind of a different duo per track here for Aura.
Yeah, it certainly is, and Nock this time actually sitting in 5th place, but he's challenging here. I mean, it's basically a 4v1 onto MINSIK here, and sometimes that can lead to an opening, but the wider part of the track is really at the beginning. Now it's getting a little bit tighter. Obviously, these are some of those turns I was talking about here on this one-lap track, and the tighter parts and the final few turns are where you have an opportunity here as Seraphic to make that challenge, but it's kind of impossible if you don't have anyone to actually make the challenge itself.
Ooh, Mari goes just flying off. Sure, Nog makes a couple of collisions as well, but the thing is Nog did his job, right? He's pressured enough where Seraphic was actually fighting amongst each other to try to find an opening, and now it seems like maybe the lead's gone a bit too far already.
Yeah, and Looning is now in these tighter turns able to basically alone, if he needs to, sacrifice himself, he can to make sure the 1-2 comes through. This is the part where Seraphic wanted to contest, but they're just too far behind with no real setup.
Yeah, and it's just going to be a clean 1-2-3 finish again. I mean, Aura is looking dominant in speed mode so far against their opponent, Seraphic.
Yeah, this is, I mean, clinical, and I hate to say it, but it wasn't even close. And I mean, this is your track pick, and it's a one that I thought maybe would throw Aura for a loop because it's so unusual. And it's also one that I personally do agree with the track choice. I think it's a great one to try to break up that 1-2, but when you fall that far behind, and Mari and crew falling out there with Doc basically just tossing himself to the wayside to block 3 players from challenging, then it was really just one player who could actually try to break that setup there with Looning once again, sitting in a good spot in 3rd. And it's just the game plan for Aura. They just poured it from track to track. And like you said, sometimes it's a different 1-2 in terms of the players there. But it's often Hero, and it's often the starts that no one can really prevent. And I think maybe that could be a way for Seraphic to get in here. But again, it's just easier said than done. This is a roster that's largely stayed the same. And so, you know, if it's working, why change it?
Yes, absolutely. And here, Mari, he's trying to take a much sharper turn to try to save time, and Nock just says, nah, not on my watch. He goes and bumps Mari out, and then he just collides into the walls to block and stop even further members. And what a great team racer to have here for Aura, right? I mean, if he's in the 1-2, he'll keep up the speed, but if not, such a great sweeper that's really been keeping them in the races.
Yeah, Doc, so famous for these types of plays. Aura look like they might just be taking this one 3-0. We'll see if Seraphic has something special planned here for Glacier, or it might just be the 3-0.
Aura looking to close things out in speed mode 3-0 as we kick things off on Glacier Extreme Stadium.
And here we go, Scarlet actually making this one a little bit more interesting here from the start, Mari as well. So this is still a 1-2, Hero and Looning, but I think a more competitive one as Nock and C's are significantly far behind, so won't be able to create much disruption here. But the Looning is doing such a good job here. Now Hero has built a large gap.
Yeah, I mean, Looning, right, he bought enough time for Hero to now somewhat be safely in first place because of the hairpins at the end. Yes, there is an opportunity for Seraphic to catch up, but the other important thing to note is Nock now catching back up to provide support. So Seraphic, they gotta make sure MINSIK or Scarlet are kind of given that sweeping duty to keep Nock at bay.
Yeah, right now they have a 2-3-4, but yeah, how's your sweeping? Because we haven't really seen this yet from Seraphic because they haven't had the control just yet. Now, MINSIK here doing a good job. Nock trying to run his way through right now, but they do not have the numbers advantage. Aura, that is to say, and Hero being first place alone is not enough here. And now, I mean, Aura is struggling to actually close that gap, and it hasn't really been about the sweeping, it's just about the lead they have.
Yeah, absolutely, and even boost management, right? If you keep your eye on the leaderboard there, Seraphic's always trying to stack up one extra one against the members of Aura, but on these straightaways, Aura, the boost timings are good, and C's now breaking through into 3rd place.
Yeah, a little bit of a weak sweep moment there for Seraphic, not really blocking at all, and Looning is going to be able to jump up to 3rd place here, and Aura now firmly in the lead. A little bit of a rough one as Scarlet and Promise drop back to 7th and 8th, and Aura might be able to just kind of steal this one away. It looked great for Seraphic at the beginning, but no control.
Yeah, as we go into the hairpins, Aura, I mean, Hero's definitely locked in for 1st place, but Looning, he's even going to try to lock things in, trying to create another 1-2 finish here for Aura. How do they do it on every track? Mari tries to disrupt, but it's not going to be enough. And, oh, C's just wants to tease him with another 1-2-3 finish. And
very clean.
Yeah, dominant speed mode.
1, 2, 3. It feels like the story of this series. Set after set, Aura taking it, and this was the closest of them, but it feels like maybe nerves almost got to Seraphic in that last one because they didn't, I think, take the control they had and utilize it very correctly. And then on that last hairpin as well, Mari just kind of losing control and just letting it go. It almost felt like they're, and it's a new track record here for Hero as well. Aura with no contest. I mean, it's no surprise that in team mode you can get a record when you're so uncontested for so long. It gives you the opportunity to get additional speed that you wouldn't otherwise have if you're actually trying to both defend and hold that spot. So pretty one-sided here. Arguably our most one-sided speed of the tournament thus far.
Yeah, oh, I would absolutely agree. And here's the thing is that Seraphic, they've got to start to feel a little bit of pressure because yesterday the amateur teams, and a lot of them actually having brand new rookies coming into KDL, put up a decent fight against the likes of Songnam Rocks and Guangdong Freaks. And Seraphic, they're struggling to even get one track off of Aura. I mean, sure, Aura's, it's a very strong team in and of themselves, but Seraphic, they've got to prove themselves here in item mode.
Yeah, I agree. I'm not trying to sound the alarm early, but it is a concerning start. And with the caliber of players we have here on Seraphic, we knew it wasn't going to be an easy tournament for them, right? But I think that there's a lot of growth that can be shown between seasons as well as what happens throughout regular season. Still early days and still early in this best of 3 here that we're playing as we move into item mode. We will have, of course, Tech coming through and Snoopy, formerly Pure. I think Tech has had some of the most phenomenal final pushes that we've seen. Like, he and Jimin are both so incredible at item mode. That being said, I think Tech's role in those final pushes may be a little bit muted here because of the item changes. Not to say that doesn't mean he can actually make an impact. He probably has a great read on the new meta too. But let's see what his playstyle is going to be as we move into this one now.
Yeah, I'm curious to see, because a lot of the fandom here in Korea, they look at Tech to be that guy to say, okay, whenever like water bombs come back into meta, this is the guy they can always rely on to hit some really good shots. So curious to see, do they utilize it a lot more aggressively, a lot more efficiently than some of the other teams? And here we go. All right, look at the track list. Seraphic picks up Sphinx's Riddle first, and then there it is, Glacier Polar Halfpipe coming out as the first choice from Aura.
Yeah, then we're going to Cogwheel Crush, Brody's Gloom, and then Pharaoh's Pass. And Polar Halfpipe, a map that we usually don't see early. It's usually one of the later ones if we see it. So I'm curious what Aura has got planned for this one, because I think the way that item mode is being played now on this patch is also really warps how that final push can go, and you have a lot more agency, I think, to deny those pushes to the high ground on that upper track there. So as a Glacier Polar Halfpipe fan, I'm very excited for how we're going to see this one develop.
Yeah, especially because that was a track where when the magnet meta was running rampant, it was fairly clear what the strategy was in those last couple corners, right? Go around the last corner where you don't drop and then use the magnet to boost forward. But now, maybe you take that shortcut in the upper track, maybe you use an aggressive item on the turn to really slow them down. I mean, there's a couple extra options here. So curious to see what the plan is. But first off, we have to go to Seraphic's pick. They took item priority. What do they have prepared? Can they bring us to an ace match? We'll have to find out if they can even start with a lead in item mode against Aura as we enter Desert Sphinx's Riddle. And item mode begins. Aura already with the speed win under their belt.
Yeah, very dominant as well. we will see Hero get caught here early on. As Knock can hold on to his shield as Hero will grab. Unfortunately for him, nothing too great out of this, just the double nitro. Not going to pick up any lightnings. Snoopy also double missile.
Yeah, and of course the balloons will kind of negate those missiles into the banana effect where you just spin out. So that's why the water bombs and the wisp were kind of indirectly buffed, of course, with the recent patch. Now the balloons also let you get out of those water bombs a little bit quicker as well.
Yeah, I think it's just a great way to make the rockets feel still useful, but not oppressive. And Promise here going to push up into second. Hero has a pretty substantial lead. Will, of course, lose that with this UFO connecting that water bomb. A little bit ill-placed, but Hero holding onto a magnet and a shield right now, and we have to kind of look at him as one of the main characters right now because he has that defensive setup. He also has a banana he's holding onto. Seas. Oh, that's massive.
Oh, man.
Tech, man, and these water balloons. And now you're looking at, like, you've got 2 shields for Hero. They've got an Angel they're holding on to. I mean, this is a really nice setup here for the side of Aura.
Yeah, I mean, unless a UFO comes out, you're not slowing down Hero whatsoever, right?
Yeah, and I think the UFO alone is not going to be enough, especially if you consider the stacked Angel that Knock is holding on to, and he can take a hit.
Oh my god.
Lightning too.
Yeah, this lead is insane, and like you mentioned, the Angel still being held on by Knock, and they're using everything they have to constantly keep Seraphic behind, right, so that they can't catch up to Hero too easily. Now, finally, all the shields have been cycled out, and Hero starting to get slowed down by a couple of these items.
Yeah, he is getting slowed down as they're targeting him really well. It's actually a great shot there from Snoopy, making sure they doesn't hit Knock, but targets Hero, so he doesn't have the same lead he had before. And we saw G-Man fall prey to this in our previous series. Hero taking a lot of hits, but still maintaining the lead. Still has 2 barriers here. One popped, of course. We'll avoid this barricade as we get to the final moments. Ooh, big bomb here.
Yeah, and it does catch up Hero as well, but Knock will be shooting forward into first place this time around. He has an Angel and an EMP, so he should be safe. Actually, the UFO catches him. He's going to save that for another opportunity. He knows that there's still time for Seas to try to cross the finish line.
Yeah, Seas here in a massive lead. Looks like he's going to close it out, but very much a tempo-based advantage here for Aura, where Hero holds that control and absorbs so many resources for so long. Not entirely sure why he did not EMP that UFO we saw there. I believe it was Knock who was holding onto the EMP, didn't sit there when the UFO hit him, but regardless, like, they had a great defensive setup, and Hero absorbed so many resources that I think ultimately Seraphic couldn't really get a tempo advantage elsewise, and even though Hero wasn't ultimately the one to cross the finish line first, the strategy held stronger, at least much better than what we saw when G-Man was in first, because Hero had a much bigger lead than what we saw from G-Man earlier.
Yeah, basically really drawing so much aggro that the rest of his team can still maintain the lead. And like you said, I mean, Knock, he doesn't EMP, but I'm starting to wonder, maybe it was intentional, right? Because of the distance they had, he knew that Seas was still nearby and say, okay, well, if I take this UFO, and if maybe they come up with another magnet or a UFO right at the end, I can still have this EMP to really shut that down, understanding that I don't have to be the one to cross the finish line as long as our team does it.
Yeah, exactly. I think that you might be onto something with that. Well, we are headed now to Glacier Polar Halfpipe, and you know, magnets being weaker means that path you could take on the higher track, the higher ground, is one that I'm going to be really zooming in on just as an enjoyer of Kart Raider, right, to see what the meta is going to look like on this track, to see if, because you could get pulled off and really could ruin your entire run playing on that higher track. Sometimes we didn't see it unless they had a specific setup for it. With EMPs too, you have another chance to block that.
Yeah, absolutely. Curious to see how this track changes. We're already seeing lots of changes based on the new meta here in item mode. Can Aura keep the lead as we go to Glacier Polar Halfpipe?
Off we go here on Polar Halfpipe. Aura up 1-0. Promise with the lead.
All right, Tech, he gets knocked away from the item boxes, so he just resets himself to pick up another one. And it is going to be a UFO, but of course you can always have some extra time to catch up here in item mode.
Yeah, it's item mode. It's not speed, where I call it press R to retire.
Yeah, very different meaning here in item mode.
Yeah.
It's much rougher if you've got to resort to that. We already do have, it looks like Seas, who took the upper track with a boost, and he is well ahead, and he is going to force a lot of these UFOs to start coming out early.
Ooh, nice avoid there on the balloon from Seas here, who's got an EMP and a shield. Will pop the shield. Now he's got double double EMP. I don't know how impactful that's going to be here, but it is going to feel nice for the time being at least. Taking that outer path so he won't be hit by any other projectiles will allow MINSIK to take first here. Double EMP onto him. He is taking some abuse in first place.
Ooh, and lots of wisps just hitting all at once across the board. So everyone kind of resets here in lap 2. Now, we do have Knock with an Angel and a Lightning. Curious to see if he holds on to that Lightning for a potential attack in lap 3.
Yeah, he can just play a supportive role with Angel and Lightning now and say, I'm not the main character of this one. And as we will see, wasn't really able to get onto this high ground this time around. Just not wanting to use any resources to commit to that. As Knock is still, again, playing that supporter, he's just going to sit at the back and see if he can change the outcome of that final push, which I think is wise. You know, you don't need an extra body in item mode necessarily. You've got a great setup to support Tech and C's who are up here at the front.
Yeah, and Tech just trying to keep everyone at bay here in the lead, and he's going to do a good job of it, even using that Wisp to make sure he can put C's back up front. C's is going to use a shield to be able to avoid the Lightning, trying to keep the lead himself. He is going to hold on to it. He has his own Lightning as well, so double Lightning on the side of Aura between Knock and C's.
Yeah, and he's lucky he picked up a shield here too, so he's got both something you can use offensively and defensively, as well as that additional shield. So Promise up here on the high ground, boosting forward. Hero with a great play here, Magnet held. See if he can hold on to this first. Water Balloon's not going to hit him.
Yeah, and the barricade, Hero's aware of that. It's from his team. He's going to avoid it now, and the double Lightning still in hand for Aura.
Feels like checkmate.
Yeah, I mean, there's no way they can stop this run from Aura, even the Magnet to really secure it here from Tech. And while the Lightning's going to hit, Tech will spin right across the finish line here for Aura.
That was pretty clean, and they knew also, of course, that there's no Angel to block that Lightning. And yeah, and a Lightning does come out as well from Seraphic, but it's not able to actually stop Aura from crossing the finish line. The lead is too great at that point, and really just managing their items well. And I think that when you watch players like Knock just basically say, I'm a supporter now, I'm going to sit back, this game is not about me, I'm going to hold these items in my inventory. We did see stuff like that sometimes on the previous patch, but in this one it's kind of like, well, we're going to sacrifice tempo for a little bit of really strong setup for that final push. And the trade-off works out here very well for Aura, and it is just going to be a dominant start for Aura here in this tournament, just absolutely crushing. We might see a 6-0 today.
We could, yeah, and it would be our first one of preseason 2, and wouldn't be a great start for Seraphic, but it would be a great statement for Aura to say that, you know, that top 3 finish in preseason 1, it wasn't a fluke.
And this is Tech, man, with his final Magnet pushes. You talked about his bomb placement being so great, but pushes the Magnet through. They've got the shield here, and the Angel is popped, and then they have double Lightning Season Knock just sitting at the back here. And even though Tech is going to eat a little bit of this, it just doesn't matter. They've got it to use defensively. And, I mean, that was, like, clinical plays. And Aura's always been so good at item mode, and you just see it here again. The patch hasn't changed anything for this team.
Yeah, and the crazy part about the ending is he relies on the old reliable Magnet boost, but then the Angel comes out just to block the Lightning, so he still gets hit by the missile, but that's only a spin out, right? So Tech will be able to cross that finish line. Can they make the first 6-0 preseason 2? We'll find out as we go to Factory Cogwheel Crush. Aura trying to make a strong statement and in their opening match of Preseason 2 against Seraphic.
A little bit of a comical spin there. You'll have to see it in full zoom in with its great sound effect. The C's is going to pull ahead here, and Hero is just going to do a double spin here now. As we'll see if the advantage here in bodies for Seraphic is going to actually end up being impactful. They've got 2 Wisps and a Magnet they could use for some additional advantages. MINSIK going to pull ahead, toss out that banana, pick up a shield, and he's actually starting to get a big lead himself here. And now, you know, we could see MINSIK try to pull off the same thing that Hero did, especially with Knock getting caught here. Now that lead is starting to really stack up. You can see it there on the map on the right side of your screen. He's got quite the advantage. Now Tech is going to come challenge, and he's actually in Magnet range.
Even the missile is going to force that spin out from MINSIK, even it's the barricade. So things have been slowed down a little bit for Seraphic, and most importantly, it actually denies that shortcut timing, right? So everyone's still on the same playing board here as they try to finish off lap 1.
Yeah, Promise double shield here, and the lead is not what it once was, but it's still significant here as he's just not able to be hit by a lot of the offensive items. Now also holds an EMP, so tough for Nock to actually utilize this. He'll block the Magnet with the EMP. And, oh, look at that. He shields anyways, but man, that was actually so clean on the edge there.
Yeah, I mean, he was well aware that that's a possibility coming out from Nock. Now, because of the tempo here, Nock's going to be able to eventually catch up, but he doesn't have too many defensive items no longer in store. No Angels available yet for Aura either.
Nock here just out of gas. I mean, doesn't have any items right now. Promise with both the shield and the EMP burns both here to hold that lead. You're getting very close, but that's a connection.
Ooh, and Hero's got a boost, and Tech has Magna boost as well.
And Storm as well.
Yeah, Aura could be trying to make a classic jump onto the upper part in the final stretch of the track.
Okay, EMP not available here for C's. Angel out to block that potential lightning here. C's holds it though, as we're still not quite in that final stretch. Now, 500 meters to go. Hero, will he just try to push ahead here with Tech?
Yeah, there's the Magna Hero boost forward, and then Tech still got his own boost as well, and there's nothing to stop him as he shoots forward, crosses the finish line, and creates the first 6-0 in tracks of Preseason 2.
Yeah, just a great start here for R.O.32 this season. I think, you know, when you look at the history of contemporary kart rider, the last few seasons of Kart Rider League and our first preseason, you know, we've had a story of two teams, right, in Kwangdong Freaks and Liiv SANDBOX, but I think Aura have really solidified themselves as a real new challenger here, and maybe this is the season where they make that run to the finals. Maybe we actually see a non-pro team, quote-unquote, actually make that run, because this team is clearly well prepared. They clearly work well together. They've made, again, very few changes, only bringing Looning into this roster really is the standout. I look at this team as a team that could really do great things, and, you know, for Seraphic, like early season, right? You know, we know this team wasn't at the top of the table in preseason 1 in terms of its talent, but you know, I don't want to judge them too harshly off the loss to Aura, because Aura is just so good right now. And of course, similarly, you could say the opposite. Like, is Aura going to be this good when they play the top table teams? I think they've earned enough respect from me from what they did to them last season to make me believe that this team could do great things. And it's not a shock to see the 6-0. It's just rough if you're a Seraphic fan.
Yes, absolutely. I don't think it's anything to be ashamed about if you're a Seraphic. Now, the bigger question is, of course, like you said, well, can Aura do the same against the likes of Kwangdong Freaks and Liiv SANDBOX? Their performance in Preseason 1 tells us there's absolutely a possibility, but they haven't quite kind of finished that, you know, cross that finish line yet, right? Proven that last 2% to say that they deserve to be in the finals. We'll see if that happens here in Preseason 2.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to those matchups. I mean, Aura's has always been a team we've loved to watch. I even like their new logo.
Yes.
You know, like, this team's just leveling up everything.
Yeah, in Preseason 1, it was kind of this whole bubbly look of like, yeah, you know, we're just happy to be here, etc. Now they're like, no, we're serious about this. We want a new logo. We want to prove ourselves. We want to be at the top of the leaderboard.
Yeah, Aura's old logo was kind of like, ooh, a cute new challenger. Now it's like, this is a team to, like, the logo also matches the performance.
Yes.
So, like, now it's tightened up and it's very clean. I like the aesthetic, but yeah, I mean, enough about logos though. I mean, we do have, of course, a clear top 4 and bottom 4 now that this is our final match, our first match. Now every team has played here, and the teams you expected to do very well have, and I think Sensation being kind of the odd one out in the bottom part of our standings, I think they performed very well today and could be a challenger, but I think otherwise, it's kind of as expected.
Yeah, I would say so. I mean, I think the only things would be maybe, you know, something like Kwangdong Freaks not having as big of a round and set advantage as you might have expected them to. You know, a lot of people maybe expecting them to go for that clean 2-0 in their opening match. Didn't happen, and then that goes to, you know, talk about teams like Potential putting up a pretty decent fight in their opening match. So the order, I mean, the overall top 4 versus bottom 4, it is what you'd expect, but clearly we're seeing, okay, we might see another shakeup like we did with Aura here in Preseason 2.
Yeah, certainly could be the case. I'm just looking forward to seeing like some of these big matchups now that we haven't seen, like Kwangdong versus Liiv SANDBOX, Aura versus Kwangdong, and Aura versus Liiv SANDBOX. Those are the ones that I'm very much looking forward to. And I think one of the other things is when you start to look at some of the bottom of the pack teams, they also playing against each other, I think will showcase some of their skills, because sometimes you just get destroyed by an elite team. But when you actually have 2 of the bottom teams play against each other, then you actually get to see some of the skills that don't necessarily translate against top teams there at the bottom. So it feels cool to also watch these rookies
Yes.
then perform and actually get to have their time in the spotlight as well.
Yeah, and that goes back to something you mentioned during the races as well, where if you're playing against kind of these pro teams, the pressure gets to you, right? And you don't get to really show off what you've been practicing, what your own potential looks like, because you're so concerned about, oh well, like what do we do about Neil or HoJun or some of these other big names? Like how do we combat them? And so now when they fight against each other, they can say, okay, well we play our own game plan, try to prove ourselves in this matchup.
Yeah, you guys know this obviously. Well, most of you should, but we have a massive live audience that comes
Yes.
to the studio every time, and I think Aura being the massive fan favorite, that's something that you could see as well. When you look out into the audience and between matches where you've got your headset off, you're talking to the coach and stuff like that. Like it feels like everyone can be rooting against you as well, and there's a lot of stuff that is added pressure in Kartrider just because this is a new game. You're trying to solidify your legacy. And I mean, it's what makes it really fun, right? It's why ace matches are so tense.
Yes.
Who's it going to be? Is Neil going to come through? I'm just glad to be back.
Yeah, and again, right, we keep mentioning, right, we're still in this preseason. We're trying to figure out, okay, who really are we keeping our eyes on as we go into the regular season, and also give chances for these players to really get accustomed to Kartrider Drift League, really try to make a name for themselves and get a boost in their career. And we're constantly seeing new rookies show up, both in team matches and, of course, solo matches, which we still have left for tonight's recipes as well.
And if you're on a non-pro team, proving yourself and actually showing your skills can be how you make your way into said pro teams, right? And how you can end up maintaining your spot and stuff like that and honing your skills. Being in Team League is actually such a huge boon because it allows you an entire regular season of constant play, which could then be a benefit for your solo races next time you go to qualifiers, for example. Speaking of solo.
Yeah, we got more matches, races coming up tonight. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we get to take a look at the intense Group B of solo matches here in Preseason 2. We'll be right back.
just makes me mad that I want you back, but I can't stop thinking about it. I'm stuck living without it. That look on your face, how it made me feel safe. Now I can't stop thinking about it, but I'm better off without it. Ooh, we were never destined to live inside this tension. Call us a learning lesson. Ooh, 'cause there's a better me at the end of all these feelings. Call us a learning lesson. Everything's clearer when you're not in the way.
Welcome back, everyone. We are now getting ready for our solo matches here on day 2 of Preseason 2 of the KDL. We'll be looking at Group B of the round of 32.
It's going to be an exciting one. Is it as stacked as Group A? Debatable. I would say maybe a little bit, slightly less stacked, but still very stacked. I want to see how HoJun will perform tonight because he played very well in the ace match despite the loss. So that's something that can hurt you if the loss is going to hurt your momentum. But I think with how well he played, I think you should be coming in a good mood. Here's our format. Of course, top 4 advance, and then you move into the round of 16 where we go to double elimination. Bottom 4 do get eliminated here in the round of 32, so this is arguably the most cutthroat part of the tournament, to be totally honest.
Yeah, absolutely, right? Because, you know, you get bottom 4 and you're out, you don't get any more chances. But of course, if you make it all the way and you do pick up that final win, you'll be going away with 10 million won, which is about, you know, $8,000 or so, a little bit more USD. And we are looking at the track list for solo matches. A couple differences than speed mode in the team matches, notably WKC Korea circuit being included here, and of course Japan and Singapore are not included in the solo matches.
Yeah, not in solo. You can see our rank points, you know, have stayed the same. Still lose 5 points for the rare retire, and it's 10-7, 5-4, 3-2, or rather 3-1, 0, and then -1 if you end up taking last. So we did have Group A complete yesterday. Neil, Cool, Dizzy, and World are clear favorites of the group, I would say, so no shocks there to that one. And we will, of course, have today's Group B, and then later on we'll have C and D next Saturday and Sunday, so 24th and 25th, respectively. So this is a Group B that I think has a lot of exciting storylines and some rookies coming through, as well as a lot of veterans here. My eyes are definitely on Spear and ByungSu. I think 2 players have really proven themselves already. I think Spear more of a supportive player for Kwangdong Freaks, but in solos, I think he could actually prove himself in a completely different way.
Yeah, I'm curious to see again, right, if he can really make a name for himself as an individual rather than just as a team. Now, yesterday we actually had that rare tiebreaker for 4th place between Dutzy and Vanilla. Dutzy was able to cleanly win out in the 1v1. Curious to see if we'll have any similar situations today or if it will be kind of a straightforward point distribution. But let's take a look at our group first. Of course, these colors kind of indicate their seeding, but right now we're in the round of 32. The colors will hold much more meaning as we go through the bracket, but Spear currently with the yellow stripes in the #1 speed.
Yeah, 5072 set up here for him, having the extra boost there for acceleration, which is quite common in solos, as it's not about supporting anybody, it's about trying to make that final push for the finish line, as the end is all that matters. As Most coming in here, it's his first time. He's going to do his best to make the round of 16. Most is the best.
I mean, we'll see. A lot of people have their eyes on Most, actually. He's been really racking up the leaderboard points across on the server, on time attack, and even in the Grand Prix. So a lot of people are saying, I mean, this guy's someone to watch out for. He actually, overtakes the likes of Jong and HoJun in the qualifiers to come straight in from the winner's bracket. So this guy is someone to keep your eyes on, even though he's a rookie.
And ByungSu, don't be nervous, just give it a try. I think just trying to keep himself calm here going into this one. Obviously finishing PS1 in 9th place. That's kind of like our new official moniker for the preseasons, PS1 and PS2.
No PS5 yet, though.
Yeah, no.
No PS5.
I think we're going to stop at 2.
I hope so, yeah. Of course, next up, we're looking at MINSIK, who did enter the solo matches in Preseason 1, but wasn't able to escape the round of 32, so sitting at 22nd place there. See if he can do a little bit better this time around.
Yeah, fan there from MINSIK as well, saying he's hoping he's going to take first, as we actually have a 6062 set up here for Curren, who will be his first time playing. He wants dinner suggestions. Maybe it's going to be an apple. I love this.
Oh, I love the little apple headband there. And of course, a lot of Korean streamers always saying that it's kind of the acronym for dinner menu suggestions, please. And it is just about time for dinner after the race is finished. So curious to see if he'll be going to it with a smile or with a frown.
The meme with the apple there, as this is, of course, our most storied player here of the group in HoJun. Maybe this time, there's a pretty good translation for what he said there in Korean, as did, of course, drop out in 26th in PS1.
Yeah, and that like doesn't do his entire career justice, though, right?
Yeah.
I mean, he's such a storied, racer here in Kart Rider. However, ever since returning from retirement, he hasn't looked good yet in Kart Rider Drift. And now here's another racer, right? He actually was a player when HoJun was coaching him, and now he's coming back in for solo matches.
Yeah, and Hero's been fantastic for Aura, one of our 1-2 players for them, but it'll be his first time, of course, playing in Kart Rider Drift here in solos, so a lot of eyes on him as the Sensation players are hanging around to watch the matches we saw there. Scarlet coming through, another rookie player. So again, this group is filled with players who are coming here to actually prove themselves for the first time, and that's what part of this, what preseason is all about, and of course, been most fan himself.
Yeah, and a 5.063, a slight change, but the overall idea still being the same there. We did see earlier Hero kind of sticking with the 6.062. He just wants to go whatever he's most used to. And on certain tracks, certain racers will switch out their car to go back to Old Faithful Minecart and 6.062 builds. See how that pans out. But ladies and gentlemen, our first track of the night in solos is actually going to be the WKC Korea Circuit. Who will take that first place and get to select the next track? Let's find out in round 1. And the race is off. Solo match. It is round of 32. Group B. Spear currently with the yellow stripe. See if he can maintain that, trying to go into the round of 16.
Yeah, he and Hero actually having a fantastic start. Hero actually pulling massively ahead, though. No collisions there with that initial Nitro build. And Scarlet and he are now actually feeling very comfortably in the lead right now. Spear loses a little bit of steam here. Now, my eyes right now are on Most, who actually is super hype right now, as we talked about before, as one of the rookies who's got such great builds. His time trials are fantastic. He's set a lot of records in a solo queue essentially at home, but he's actually sitting in 8th place right now. Not a lot of competitive experience, but I caster blessed him.
Yeah.
Here he comes.
Absolutely. He says, oh, just wait. Hold that thought, because I'm shooting forward. He's actually finding so many aggressive opportunities, and this is the thing about rookies is, you can play your own time trials all you want, but it's hard to contest against 7 other racers. Mo says, no, this is where I thrive. He has now shot into first place as we enter lap number 2.
Oh man, this guy is phenomenal. Now, holding on to that for a little bit here as we crest the second lap. Let's see how good he is defensively now, though, as he is actually losing some steam, but this is actually a close race still, as Scarlet is actually going to push his way into the lead here, battling with Hero. One of our closer solo races. This is a kind of track, though, where it's pretty simple, right? Not a lot of sharp turns, and it's still very wide. So it just does end up being about the finish more than the middle, more than lap 1, as we are getting closer and closer to that edge. Only a few of these small turns left, but Scarlet managing to keep these turns very efficient.
Yeah, Scarlet's really holding on to that lead, and Hero, but Most, he's trying to make another opportunity happen right now. He's trying to go around the outside. He does get shifted out just a bit. Meanwhile, Spear trying to collide against Scarlet. He does win that battle, gets into 3rd place. Meanwhile, Curren, another rookie who's returned from his own military service as well, trying to see if he can get that first selection. HoJun says, no, I will redeem myself. He's trying to get over the finish line first, doesn't want any collisions to happen, goes through the pit stop, and he finishes first.
Yeah, he takes the safer path to avoid collisions. A little bit of a longer one there, but with no collisions coming through, he is with the lead he has. Alone there, able to take track 1, so experience winning out here. We did also see MINSIK had an additional Nitro there at the end. I didn't actually see what he ended up finishing as, but he was holding on to a second Nitro, had 1 Nitro advantage, so might have been able to rock it up to like 5th, even though he wasn't last. Now that we see it actually, though, he has finished in 8th, so not using that final Nitro, interestingly, there at the end of the day. I had my eyes on him because I thought maybe he had something planned. Wasn't able to pull it off here. Most, even though he had a great end of lap 1, wasn't able to end up pulling up to top 3 or anything like that, but showed us some good potential at least.
Yeah, I mean, I think I love the fact that he wasn't letting up, right? He wasn't playing scared. He was saying, okay, if I find an opening, I'm going right in between you guys and really putting on pressure. And in free-for-alls, sure, the first track maybe doesn't work out, but as we go into maybe some more complex, more difficult tracks, ones that aren't as wide open, we'll see the true strength of Most. But right now, we got to wait for HoJun's selection in track number 2.
Yeah, the Korea Circuit track is about as basic as it gets. So I feel like in one way we saw HoJun's experience shine through there. He stayed calm, but moving to Forest Zigzag Timberland, it's a whole new track. It's a whole new ball game here. A lot more complex turns. Let's see how these rookies do on our second round. off we go here. HoJun's track selection, and he is going to lead us off here in first place.
Yeah, and just going for those cutting drifts all the way through, and he actually has such a lead that he could do that safely without colliding into anybody, really trying to stay ahead and just make sure that no one can pass him too easily. Now, ByungSu, you know, the racer that HoJun brought into the KDL in Preseason 1, he says, I gotta really redeem myself after track 1, now takes first place.
Yeah, really great start for him too, and HoJun. MINSIK with a rough 8th place finish, but a great early first lap here, competing now with the likes of HoJun and ByungSu. Pretty big gap between these three and the rest of the pack. As Spear, he's so good as a sweeper in Team League, of course, and now trying to find his way as a runner here in 5th place, but is now finding one angle there, passes Hero, and maybe take an aggressive inner here and pull ahead. This is so tight here.
Yeah. I mean, these guys are just all lined up behind each other. One mistake, and you could really collide into each other, maybe ping pong off the walls, and that could be the end of the race for you here in round 2. So it looks like most of the racers just saying, okay, I just want to play it safe, right? Not going to do anything crazy aggressive, and most of the order remains the same as we enter lap number 2.
Yeah, and just trying to play it safe, you know, and for these racers in top 5, like oftentimes top 5 is good enough if you can do it consistently, not taking any risk, because a risk means the difference between 3rd place and 1st or 3rd place and 8th if you mess it up and have that collision. So really important here to just hold on to what you've got. But Hero maintaining that advantage here in his first solo match in Drift as wow.
Yeah.
ByungSu gonna capitalize on that.
HoJun just hits the wall just a little bit as he's trying to make an opening for himself, so ByungSu says thank you very much. Now HoJun still keeping in 4th, but here's the thing. This has given an opportunity for most to try to catch up and enter that top 4. Meanwhile, the podium finish, it looks like it's between ByungSu, Hero, and Spear.
Yeah, getting towards the later parts of this final lap here. Hero trying to make some aggressive plays here. Spear may actually be the benefactor of the defense here of ByungSu. As man, he's just trying to find an angle, but it's just not going to happen, it looks like here.
Yeah, Hero's doing a great job of blocking off Spear and trying to attack, but he bumps into the wall just a bit, and Spear sees that opportunity right away, and HoJun, he's now back in contention. He's trying to make sure, but he doesn't have the boost ready just yet. Hero and Spear still trying to keep up with each other. Spear has somehow been able to maintain this first place as we enter the last stretch, and oh, Hero just goes right by at the end. Spear even tries to block it, but Hero rides the wall to enter in first place.
All right, HoJun maintains top 4 here as well, and we did see Most drop back to 8th for a brief moment there. Was actually able to get back from 8th to 5th because he ran into Curren. It looked like there was a little bit of a collision, then he hit the wall and jumped back. We saw that in picture-in-picture. I was worried maybe that he was going to end up finishing in 8th, and you know, at the end of the day, I don't care who wins, right? But I have a specific like focus on Most because he has been so hyped, right? Like,
yes.
So even when he's not in top 4, I've kind of got my eyes on him. I think our observers as well with that picture-in-picture keeping their eyes on him too. Middle of the pack right now, but we do have a very clear top 3 here. HoJun winning that first one, Hero taking the second. With a lackluster finish in the first track, you know, he's still only in 3rd place, but 10 points is massive to pick up, and he will also, of course, have track selection.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is the thing that, you know, in the first, like I would say, for 1 through 3, in terms of the rounds, things could really flip on its head if someone who was an 8th gets first place and you really swap positions with someone else. Meanwhile, like you said, Most, while he's not getting a podium finish just yet, he is right there to try to cross that cutoff line, right? Kind of really, intentionally or not, doing this whole pension meta, going for that insurance plan of just get enough points to go to the round of 16. Now the choice from Hero. It looks like it's going to be a difficult one. We will be going to Mine Winding Slopes for round 3 of the solo matches, Group B in the round of 32. Hero selection here for the 3rd track. See if he can maintain that lead and get another choice, or if we'll have another racer try to get the lead here going into round 4.
That is the question, of course, as HoJun going to take an aggressive inner there. Took a risk, but it will pay off here. And one of the fun parts of Winding Slopes here is that when you try to take those inners here, the risk is so high because it's so tight. And then, of course, we get to later parts of this 1-lap track as well. There's a risk of falling off, for example, on some of these jumps. So really, to maintain your lead here is quite a challenge because there are a lot of ways to pass as HoJun plays this very well. Great snake there around, cuts extremely well, holds onto that boost advantage as well over Hero, and will maintain the lead.
Yeah, and I love that HoJun actually kind of played it safe on that shortcut as well, right? Just slows down to make sure he doesn't get bumped away or tries to go too much for a wide drift, and he's still keeping the lead, and he's so aware of what Hero's trying to do. He just blocks him off on every opportunity. Hero does not find an opening at any point in time. Even with the draft, HoJun says, nah, I still got the inner line as we enter these hairpins.
This is wild going to these hairpins, like you said, looking at the map. Oh, the spin from Hero as well. That's what it takes to pass HoJun. I was going to say, I feel like I'm watching an ace match between these two. Our two winners, of course, and Curren will actually pull up here with MINSIK, and Hero, he's going to take it, but HoJun, man, that spin threw him for a loop, no pun intended. He will drop back to 5th place, and Most, once again, towards the bottom half, actually will lose a point on this round with the 8th place finish. So, you know, some of the experience of these older players really showing through here, but Hero, back-to-back, man, this guy looks very clean.
Yeah, I mean, that entire spin turn, like you said, because they have been in such contention with the mind games, HoJun thought he had to block him again. And Hero just says, oh, no, sorry, I'm just passing by. Just spins and waves at him, and then gets another 10 points, puts himself healthily in the lead with 21. Spear, he's been racking up enough points to keep that 2nd place.
Yeah, we've seen that spin turn from Neil. We've seen it from Spear as well, actually, on this track. You know, it's a known move. It's not the first time we've seen it, but the execution has to be crisp, and it's an extremely high-risk play, but it pays off in a big way and also hurts HoJun massively here, unable to fully recover and get a top 3 spot. So, I mean, obviously with the finish he had earlier, he's still in a good spot, but, you know, that's not the finish he was looking for there.
No, not at all, but Hero's going to have another selection, and it's going to be another difficult one. We go to Village Boom Hill Tunnel next.
Off we go, and Hero has just been leading the pack. We'll see if he can do it again here on our 4th track. Right now, up here with Most, who's had his best start of the group so far.
Yeah, and honestly, maybe this is where he can shine, right? Not as much pressure to attack, just has to worry about whoever is behind him. And even if you let one person pass, you still get that podium finish. Can Most keep his composure? Okay, he's still contending. HoJun actually gets a little bit too aggressive, bounces off the walls just a bit too much.
Yeah, Most still maintaining this lead here for now. ByungSu has been so good at contesting. He's really been up here in the top 3 for about 3 out of 4 of our tracks right now with Scarlet. And a little bit of a collision there for Most, going to give ByungSu the opportunity to actually pull ahead a little bit further here. Most need to take some aggressive inners. He's doing just that. That was a great cut back across.
Oh, and despite the ping-ponging, though, he is able to kind of work off of Scarlet's card body, and he is able to still recover just safely. He's just going to play it safe. He does have that first heat right now. Scarlet, he actually takes the railing, takes that build, and now he shoots into first. But Most, the focus is to just finish into the podium. Scarlet with a nice spin turn just to avoid any attacks from behind, but that loses so much speed.
Yeah, it does lose a lot of speed here, pushing Most back up into first place here. Curren and Hero battling it out. Most the big benefactor of this, and now I think he's going to get his first win here.
Oh man, can he keep that up? Yes, he will be finishing in first place. Finally proves why the hype was behind him. Despite the ping-ponging in the middle of the track, he recovers thanks to Scarlet, and he is able to keep that lead.
Yeah, very impressive here on the side of Most to actually be able to keep that composure, because that recovery you talked about, I think, was the really most impressive thing when he had that collision, bumps into the wall, and actually bounces then off of Scarlet to get back into first place. That was really just a joy to watch, and a player who is so praised right now basically by all pro players. He has so many records online, and is coming in here and making a splash. And I think having a good start seems to be quite good for him. Like, maybe he's the type of player who could be the ace on a team, you know, later on if he ends up getting picked up, because he's just so good at actually holding on to that advantage. It was a really quite a treat to watch. Now, this also may save him in the group, because he's now moved up tied to 4th place. It looked like it might be doomed for him with how things were going, but picking up a win like that, keeping the chances alive.
Yeah, again, just right on that cutoff line. Can he shoot forward, just get one extra step ahead of his opponents? We'll have to wait and see. We still got quite a ways before these solo matches finish. Hero currently leading with 28, but one of the racers has to reach 50 first.
Yeah, so we have at least 3 tracks left at the minimum. So I'm excited for this one, though. Desert Ancient Aqueduct's definitely one of the most fun tracks here for solo. As we move into our next one here, we'll see if Most can repeat the performance on our 5th track.
This is going to be another track where he's going to want to get that lead early because there's so much of a risk of collisions near the end that if you try to play it safe, you're never going to have a chance to catch up.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. Speaking of collisions, bit of a rough start here for HoJun, and will find himself significantly behind, as you guys can see there on the track map to the right side. Hero, though, having a pretty comfortable one. I may have cast or cursed him there as he bumps to the wall. This is the most tricky part of the map, minus that ending that you mentioned. And most holding on to the lead here, and when he had it last time, he just really was not going to let it go, and I would not be surprised if he can maintain it here, especially considering the gap between him and Scarlet right now.
Yeah, I mean, it looks like as on these narrow pathways, if you're in first, you just have to play defensively, maybe a spin turn on these 90 degrees right here. Nope, not even going to take that risk. Just says, okay, I have the lead for now. We still have another lap. No reason to greed on that. Meanwhile, in the picture-in-picture, we can see HoJun, he's catching up to the pack just a bit, trying to get himself back into minimap range.
Yeah, most of the few collisions there to the railing, actually losing a bit of speed, and actually Scarlet and Hero will pass him, and Scarlet with the first collision, Hero just capitalizes on that and actually takes a very wide turn there. And still a very hotly contested top 3 here, but a bit of a change in Hero, man. He, I think, has been easily the most consistent player of the night here in this group.
Absolutely. I mean, I think he is most likely to go with the Yellow Stripes out of Group B here for first seed, but Most is trying to put on the pressure. And Spear, he's been always, getting close or onto the podium towards that later laps to get himself enough points. Now the question is Most. He's going to need to get into first or second. He needs a lot more points to secure himself into the top 4 and sit safely there. Most doesn't want to collide. Okay, he plays it safely. Meanwhile, Hero and Spear, it's been a rivalry between those two, and Most finds an opening. He shoots forward. He's trying to stay ahead of Hero. Can Most do it? He's going to avoid the collisions. And ByungSu, ByungSu barely reaches that maximum speed just a bit with the boost.
Oh, such a big bounce back here for ByungSu too, because he also needs these points so desperately. He was sitting at 8 here. We'll be able to pick up the full 10 and shoot up to 18. So we're suddenly getting into a position where the middle of the pack becomes so hotly contested at this point that it is going to be really hard to know who's going to walk away until the final moments. I'm not surprised this is actually a new record with how quickly Most was able to get close to the finish line there. ByungSu passed him at the last possible second, but there weren't a lot of collisions or contests there. It was kind of a smooth ride for a lot of that lap. So Hero still in first place here, but man, you look at Spear, ByungSu, and Curren, the players who are really in contention for qualification here, it is very close.
Yeah, and the thing is because we're seeing some of these middle of the pack racers getting these first places, it's really keeping Hero at bay, where we're still a little ways from finishing the solos, right? Even if Hero were to get first place, we would still need to go through at least 2 full tracks still left over. And if he doesn't get first place, that's just going to be extended even further. So we'll have to wait and see. Now, I think the other notable thing was HoJun. He fell behind so far. He still got 5th place, got a couple extra points on the board, still keeping his lead in 2nd place of the point system. But right now, it's going to be the next pick coming in from ByungSu. We will be going to Glacier Extreme Stadium.
We go here, Glacier Extreme Stadium, one of the tracks that has some of the most extreme hairpins here as well. That's pretty rare, actually.
Yeah, just getting completely pinched against the wall. So Curren and Most are both just going to have to slow down, regain themselves, try to catch back up. That's a rough start, but hey, we saw HoJun try to catch back up. He got all the way up to 5th place in the last track. See if it can happen again. Another couple, in that cave section. So now there's a clear front, middle, and end of the pack. Even more attacks here against the wall.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's something that you very rarely see. It's like mutually assured destruction for both of them actually contesting like that. Now, of course, there is a chance they can bounce back, but while I said it earlier, this is one of the more aggressive hairpin turns right here. It's also, in my opinion, one of the best ways to catch up. I think this is like the track that has the best comeback mechanics, so to speak, because of the ways you can approach that turn and the risks you can take. That being said, HoJun and Hero here still holding on to this lead. Scarlet right behind is, man, these 3 players have just been up here, killing it each and every race. And Hero once again first for the most amount of time. Can he actually hold it is the question. If we get to those hairpins a second time, I'm excited to see how HoJun and Scarlet approach it.
Yeah, I mean, especially because at the end of lap 1, Hero's the one who angled himself off that jump to overtake HoJun. So can HoJun do the same? And is Hero, maybe is he going to try to defend and maybe make a mistake, right? That pressure, it could be something that forces him to make an error. Meanwhile, ByungSu, he's sitting in 5th place, trying to catch up to the pack. And like you mentioned, Wolf, we're entering the hairpins with enough of a chance for some placements to change.
All right, here we go. This is it. There's the jump. HoJun here takes an aggressive inner, but Hero actually takes a wider and then blocks him. And he actually is going to hold it here. Ooh.
It's all about the jump, though. Oh, and Spear, he takes the opportunity as Hero and HoJun are so concerned with each other. Spear pushed himself safely at first. HoJun gets the boost, though. Oh, Spear off of the bounce gets another boost to keep his maximum speed, and he will be entering in 1st place.
Yeah, that bump actually really helping him out there. Just the perfect angle for him and the worst angle possible, unfortunately, there for HoJun, who was so close. Most actually finishing in 3rd as well, catching up quite significantly, so keeping his chances alive. Is, if I'm not mistaken, ByungSu also fell out of bounds there and actually fell back and will take a -1 to his score there at the final moments, dropping back in a big way. So really hurting him. He was actually making quite the run potentially to come up there. But now we kind of have, with ByungSu dropping down a point here, a pretty clear line between Most and ByungSu right now. It's really important Most got that top 3. And I'm not saying it's done. It's not done until it's done, but it does feel like we are now kind of trying to see who's getting first rather than seeing who's going to qualify.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's about when is the race going to end, because the point gaps are starting to widen between top 4 and bottom 4. But hey, some mishaps, maybe Hero and HoJun don't get enough points to continue their lead, and it extends the solo matches for a lot longer than we expected. We'll have to wait and see. Currently, we are waiting on the track selection from Spear. Curious to see. This is a racer that you mentioned, Wolf, as you know, we know him as the sweeper kind of for the Freaks, although they're all kind of runners in their own rights. See what he can do here in the solo matches for himself.
Is the question. We're moving to Desert Construction Chaos. This one definitely has its moments where we can see some construction chaos, that is for sure. Let's move into this one now for our next track, round 7.
Spear trying to be the nail in the coffin as he wants to get the lead by taking us to a very difficult track in Construction Chaos. However, it's going to be MINSIK and Most who are still contending for that podium spot in the 1st lap.
Spear pushing up here, and the beginning of this track is the calmest, right? Where you can have a great run, but then it's all ruined when we start to get to these crazy turns and they go up onto those like catwalk type structures. As Hero is going to actually take this one away, and now things are going to get a little bit crazy here as we move into the construction itself, heading up onto this hill. And Hero, I mean, he's done a great job of maintaining 1st place for the lap 1. It's lap 2 where he loses a little bit more control here, but so far so good.
Yeah, and here's the thing is that in team matches, sure, you can have someone try to sacrifice themselves, go for those straight boosts to just knock people out on these 90 degrees, but here in solo, you got to make sure you get through it safely as well, so everyone plays it safe here in lap 1, but we'll see if that keeps up in lap 2.
Yeah, going through the scaffolding though, no real errors from our top 3 right now, as ByungSu really needs a win so desperately if he's going to qualify for the round of 16, and a 1st place finish is exactly what's on the docket for him potentially if he keeps playing like this. Pulls ahead here, taking some aggressive inners, and let's see if he can actually manage to hold on to these while playing safe. We saw Hero do it in lap 1. Now it's ByungSu's turn.
Yeah, absolutely. Meanwhile, HoJun's continued to try to catch up as well. Most, he's so good at finding these openings. I mean, I'm just impressed with the fact that it's not just that he has his own good builds. He's very aware of what opening can I take, what build and line can I take to overtake some of my opponents. Now he's even putting on pressure.
Yeah, his adaptability has been so fantastic in this group. And speaking of, he's going to try to actually take that corner there. It does actually lose a little bit of momentum. HoJun pushing forward. As this is super hotly contested. Hero now regains control. He and ByungSu in a 1v1 up here at the top. ByungSu needs this win so badly.
Yeah, and ByungSu wanted to get into 1st place before we enter this gap with his Hero, but he tries to defend himself and hits the corner. And Most has been playing it so safe up until these last moments. And he says, thank you very very much now contending for first place against HoJun. Both of them still have a boost left. They boost at the same time. Most takes a much wider line though, and HoJun will be able to keep up better speed management as HoJun finishes in first place on that track.
Now, outside of seeding, I mean, for both of these two players who look very likely to advance from this group, I think the difference is going to be negligible. On the other hand, for players like ByungSu, who had first place, needed it desperately, that collision might be the reason why he goes home empty-handed and his tournament life ends here. I mean, that's the drama of Cartwrighter. A small mistake like that could cost you everything. And you know, ByungSu, of course, moving in to a high-profile team, right? A player who has a lot of eyes on him right now, but in solo, you know, his story might end here because now it's a 12-point gap between him and Spear. So not only does he need to pick up some huge wins here, but he also has to rely on Hero not finishing with 8 points or more. So yeah, basically, if he wins, it's done. And then he also has to hope that Spear performs significantly worse than him in order to qualify.
Yeah, that's a lot of conditions, right? So we'll have to wait and see. I mean, HoJun, he's trying to make sure that he redeems himself again. He did not have a good showing. He got knocked out in the round of 32. In fact, in Preseason 1, it was only ByungSu from Sensation who made it out of his groups in the round of 32, stayed alive in solos. But this time, HoJun says, I'm taking it in this group, and maybe I'll just make sure if he wins, ByungSu's out, right? So he could secure both his own destiny and knock ByungSu out.
Yeah, never betray HoJun. We're going to move into what could be our last track of this group. World Tour New York Rally. Off we go. It is a very hotly contested group here, a very hot contested top 4 as well. But we'll see who could potentially close this one out. And most first place here, he has looked great when he has a good start, and this is one of those times.
Yeah, I mean, he's keeping up there, and ByungSu, I mean, right now, he can't worry about HoJun. He just has to get as many points as possible, as quickly as possible, to try to catch up to Spear. If he can keep that first place, that does give him another chance. Right now, HoJun's sitting at 7th place. It does not look like our solo match is going to end just yet.
Yeah, it doesn't look that way. So ByungSu, not only does he need to get this first place if possible, but also hope for the worst for Spear, who's hot on his tail right now. Most, on the other hand, though, I mean, really maintaining that storyline of once this guy gets going, he really goes. And he is contesting with ByungSu right now. Fortunate for ByungSu fans out there, as Most is obviously pretty much guaranteed to qualify for the round of 16.
Yeah, I mean, unless things go completely awry and we flip top 4, bottom 4, Most seems to be safe, but it's really a battle between Spear and ByungSu. But HoJun, he's starting to catch back up. Now, we got to remember, he had to play that ace match earlier today, too, and almost beat Neil here. Oh, but HoJun!
Caster curse!
Oh, my gosh, as we were hyping it up, he just gets pushed to the wayside. Now, ByungSu in first place as we enter the last stretch.
Oh, man, what a miracle it would be if ByungSu is able to come back in and win it all.
The caster curse is continual!
I know.
Oh no, what have we done? Now it's
ByungSu?
MINSIK and Spear. Okay, ByungSu, he's caught back up though. He goes into first place and MINSIK doesn't have a boost. Spear's trying to catch him. Oh! ByungSu, he tries to defend a little bit too much, and it gives an opening for Spear to boost all the way on the side.
Yeah, that was a rough one. He took such a safe path that it allowed his main rival, Spear, to actually take first place, and that will prevent ByungSu, borrowing a miracle from qualifying. It looked bad after the last collision, but that finish is really going to pretty much put the last nail in the coffin of his chances here. Taking a look at, of course, the scores, you see HoJun will pick up 0 points here, so we're back to square one here, still at 42. But now Hero could also finish this with a first place at 40. So the two of them, you know, those are the ones you have to keep your eye on. Most 1 point away. Same with Spear, of course, with that final finish there. But yeah, the difference now is 18 points. So, I mean, you're pretty much statistically eliminated. So let's see, though, who's going to get which position here. Because it might just be whoever wins it, it decides it.
Yes. Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Man, my heart goes out for ByungSu, right? I mean, if he had gotten first place, you know, there was a chance. But here's the thing, is that speed-wise, Spear was going to get that max speed with the boost. But if he was just maybe a bit more aware of his surroundings, not so concerned about, you know, who's right next to him, because neither of you guys had boost, it is a bit of a shame, but now it is more about a seeding battle, right? Who gets first place, and which seed do you get out of Group B here in the round of 32. Looks like the next selection from Spear, it is going to go back to another WKC track. We will be going to WKC Brazil Circuit. Will it be HoJun, will it be Hero, or is it going to be Spear and Most trying to get another opportunity to get first place here in Group B?
That was actually really impressive from Hero, those early cuts to actually grab that lead as well as his first boost. And this is a track where the early game does really matter. It's a 2-lap track, but there's only really about 2 portions of the track where you can make an aggressive play. This is going to cost you a lot of speed to cut across, can be very risky. If you have a boost, you can use it quite well, as you can see the players doing now with the double nitros they've built up. But if you fall behind early, catching up can be quite hard because there aren't that many opportunities on this track. As you can see, Hero still maintains that lead. Yeah, absolutely. And ByungSu, you know, he's just trying to prove himself, trying to get a podium finish right now. You know, just hope that maybe the race extends in some crazy manner. But with Hero in the lead, it looks like this might be the last track we see. If he can lock in that first place, he will be finishing with 50 points. Yeah, Spear contesting with him as well as ByungSu, man. He is making himself look good here in the final hour, as it will take some retiring, I think, for him to finish, as you mentioned. But, hey, get that podium finish here. Finish with a smile on your face is all you can hope for. Is HoJun and Hero, man, they are both contesting for that first place spot to try to end this group. ByungSu just took a bit of the outer track to try to play it safe, try to position himself here for the shortcut, and HoJun actually gets pushed into the tires a little bit, trying to defend too much at the same time, loses so much speed. Meanwhile, it's going to be Most versus Hero. Most, he wants to get first place, try to get a better seeding to get out of this group, because then we get another track. Meanwhile, Hero, he wants to get first, get the 10 points, and be done with the night. Yeah, and if Most wins it, I mean, he's going to be at 49. It's pretty much locked up after that, no matter what. But Hero, he could end it right now, and Most competing with him here in what is essentially now a 1v1. I say that Spear sneaking back up. Yeah, but Most will be able to take that shortcut. He does get pushed a little bit to the wayside, and he's losing a lot of speed as he enters the grass once more. Scarlet hits the tires as well, and Hero, it looks like he might be finishing our solo matches as he gets 10 points, gets a clean 50 points in Group B of the round of 32. Yeah, he'll take it. HoJun as well, picking up second place. So our top finishers for most consistent racers will also be our top 2 in the final track here on WKC Brazil. And I mean, I like the way that Hero finished the track. He took one risky boost there across the grass, expecting that no one will be able to predict that he's going to take that angle, and it pays off. It's very close. HoJun also with that really final close run right behind him, with Spear also getting involved. But man, Hero, I'd say most consistent player of the day. Oh, yeah. I mean, he was in first place for a majority of all of the tracks, even the ones he didn't perform on. He also performed extremely well as in first place in all of the speed matches, of course, that Aura played earlier today. Just an incredible player who is playing in his very first group for solos in Kart Rider Drift, takes it in first place. That's a cool storyline for a player. Today is the day of Hero. Yeah, oh, absolutely. And I gotta say, HoJun, while he didn't get first place out of the group, looked a lot better than he did in Preseason 1, looked a lot more well accustomed to Kart Rider Drift and some of the newer tracks that have returned here. And then Most, I mean, he's proved himself, right? Sure, he didn't get first place, but he was playing aggressively, getting a couple of those podium finishes, even got to split the track here in Group B, and now he will be moving on in 4th seed, right behind Spear out of Group B. Gives him a lot more time to prepare. Moving into round of 16 gives you more opportunities, so I'm happy to see him, and I think he's lived up to the hype. He proved himself, as you said. I think really the biggest upset we saw in this group was ByungSu not making it out, but with this group having 5 really stacked players, that was just going to be the nature of it. One player was going to go home without it, and ByungSu finishes 6th place here. He, MINSIK, Curren, and Scarlet will be eliminated from our solo competition. But I mean, I look at this, and for me, watching yesterday's group, watching today's group as well, I feel like we've just overall seen the level of play improve massively. In Preseason 1, we saw actually a lot of player error. People were still learning the tracks and adjusting to, you know, the new game, right? And adjusting to kind of how this game is essentially still the same kart rider but has some subtle differences, I think we're seeing that the level of play has massively gone up. And that's exciting when you think about the storylines we're going to be seeing going to the groups beyond.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think the level of pressure that all the racers are putting on each other shows just how much more comfortable they've gotten in their own game, that they can now think about, okay, how do I play the mental game even in solos, even in this free-for-all, you know, with 7 other racers. But at the end of the day, Hero's the one who was shaken the least, gets the clean 50 points. HoJun tailing right behind with 49. So Hero, HoJun, and Spear probably the likely ones to finish, but most was the question mark, right? Okay, we've seen the hype. Can you do it in a live setting on stage? He says, absolutely I can with 40 points.
Yeah, bit of a shaky start from him. I mean, the first track we were worried, but he bounced back in a big way. And I mean, that's also a skill that a lot of rookies don't have,
Yes.
where you fall behind early, you start to get nervous, you're playing one of your first big stage matches, and then you end up choking because you underperformed. There's a lot of expectations on you. I feel like he did the exact opposite. Like, he had a
Yes.
rough start, recovered, didn't get nervous. Actually, it felt like the longer the tracks went on, he felt more experienced, felt like he was more comfortable, and just kind of rode that momentum. And when he had the leads, he and Hero both, I mean, they looked really good defensively, which is a really important tool to have in solo, because even if you don't finish in first place, you can play that pension style, you can stay top 4 and kind of make your way to the advancement.
Yeah, absolutely. So I would say if you're kind of looking for new talent in Kart Rider Drift, definitely keep your eyes on this guy most. I mean, he even got 8th place in one of the tracks, so great recovery. But let's take a look at how all the matches happened today. We had a couple team matches and, of course, the solos as well. To kick off the night, it was actually Liiv's SANDBOX up against Sensation.
Yeah, it was a closer series than we expected. Sensation really having great mastery of the item mode there, and Liiv SANDBOX clutching it out in what was a fantastic ace match between Neil and HoJun. Definitely recommend checking that one out if you missed it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, HoJun, he looked good in the ace match as well, but just shy of that win. Maybe similar to the storyline that we just saw in the solo matches, just shy of those 50 points. But either way, Liiv SANDBOX, they continue to prove that they are a force to be reckoned with. And then we saw Aura saying that, okay, we're no longer this amateur team. We're looking for a podium finish, maybe a grand finals finish in preseason 2.
Yeah, looking really good. Team just gets better and better. And most one-sided match of the tournament thus far, 6-0 here. Seraphic, I think, back to the drawing board a little bit for this squad. Didn't look poor or anything. They were just outclassed.
Yes, yeah, it was clearly just a difference in prep and skill and experience, right? And I think that's one of the bigger things is a Seraphic. They were too concerned with their own individual play that they couldn't really focus on the team strategy. And so that puts our standing so far as you see it. Aura, simply because of the round advantage they have with the +6, the clean 6-0, they will be sitting in first. But this is more so that we can keep track of, okay, who's top 4, who's bottom 4, right? Who's moving on to that kind of playoff bracket stage of preseason 2. So far, it is going to be the same 4 that we saw in preseason 1.
Yeah, it's been a great start to the tournament, to be honest with you, William. I'm really looking forward to seeing some of these new rookie players continue to excel. And also just Aura's my team to watch right now. I mean, we know how good Kwangdong Freaks are, defending champions. Liiv SANDBOX, still a lot of high talent on this roster, despite the loss of 2 of our most famous players here in Korea for Kart Rider. But, you know, it's still early days, right? We can see a team like Showtime or Seraphic bounce back for sure. Group B, of course, we just discussed it moments ago, but Spear, Most, HoJun, and Hero. So, I mean, look at the 8 players we have already guaranteeing the round of 16. We have half of it decided, and it's like, wait, what? Like, all these players are going, and then we have, of course, Group C and D to be played next Saturday and Sunday, and got great players in there as well.
Yeah, I mean, this is exciting, right? Group C, you've got the likes of HyunSoo and Ding, probably kind of the most expected to move on alongside Sungbin, and then Jung as well in Group D. Everyone's excited for that. But we will be focusing more on team matches when we return on Wednesday. The solo matches will continue next weekend. So as we go into the second round of the round robin and team matches on Wednesday, we have Seraphic going up against Kwangdong Freaks, then Showtime and Aura, and then Potential and Liiv SANDBOX.
Yeah, and this is basically 3 of our top teams against 3 of our rookie teams, right? Seraphic, Showtime, and Potential. So we'll see if any of these upsets are actually possible here. You know, I mean, it's the day of about as straightforward as it gets, or maybe we see a big upset come through. Sensation, definitely my team to look out for. They're not playing on Wednesday. We'll see them on the weekend.
Yeah, and of course, remember, we now start at 6 p.m. KST on those Wednesdays as well. Well, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us. We'll return on Wednesday with more Kart Rider Drift League Preseason 2.
So keep on turning towards the light. It'll keep you warm in the darkest night. You've got all you need. Watch it all unfold. Watch it all unfold. Desert days, summertime baby. Purple haze, sunshine lady. Pastel skies for miles, far as the eye could see.